In a world of vibrant suns and soaring dragons, a goddess of immense power offered a single final blessing. And our boy, with eyes burning with resolve, was ready to accept. He stands before her now, bathed in the light of creation. His companions can only watch, one in awe, the other in pure excitement. He channels the raw energy, a confident smirk on his face. From the swirling mana, a new weapon is forged. He takes hold of the hammer, its power thrumming through his veins. With a surge of newfound strength, he charges into the fray, but the power is too much, threatening to tear him apart from within. The divine energy erupts, a torrent of power our boy can't contain. His friends watch in horror, but the goddess remains completely unfazed. But to understand this moment, we must go back to the beginning, to a world with a guaranteed system for making your life miserable. It all started in a quiet village, far from any divine intervention. A peaceful town where everyone seemingly knew their place. Here, a younger version of our hero stands before a statue of the goddess. He hopes today is the day the scales of fate finally tip in his favor. With a desperate cry, he puts all of his strength into a single swing. The hammer strikes, and for a brief moment, the world ignites in gold. But the scales of fate, held by the goddess herself, don't even twitch. The hope on our boy's face curdles into utter soul-crushing despair. He collapses to the ground, his body and spirit completely spent. All that effort, all that desperate hope, has amounted to absolutely nothing. His hands are torn and blistered, a testament to his fruitless struggle. He questions the world itself, wondering why he was born without a single drop of magic. A voice cuts through his misery, calling him by name, Apollo. It's the village chief, and from the look on his face, he's not here to offer encouragement. With a single swing, he shatters the anvil, and Apollo's dream along with it. He remarks that having zero talent is its own special gift. Gee, thanks for the pep talk. The chief pats him on the shoulder, a gesture that feels more like a dismissal. Apollo can only look down, the humiliation burning in his eyes. He's given an ultimatum. This year's test is his absolute last chance. If he fails to produce any results, he will be exiled from the village. The crowd agrees, because community support is clearly overrated here. Publicly shamed and utterly alone, Apollo breaks down. But through the tears, a familiar fire begins to burn once more. He grips his hammer, channeling all his frustration into his hands. With a defiant roar, he puts everything he has into one more swing. And this time, a crimson magic circle flares to life from the anvil. In this world, magic is the force that enables one to wield miracles. Those strong enough to bend the laws of physics are known as wizards. They are treated as the most valuable and powerful individuals in the land. To find them, the Empire holds a large-scale magic test every single year. At the peak of this system is the Great Wizard, second only to the Emperor. Any village that produces such a talent is showered with immense benefits. The birth of a great wizard can elevate an entire town to prosperity. No pressure, though, and as Apollo brings his hammer down one last time, he knows that if he fails this test, he will be cast out from his home. But this time, for the first time, the scales of fate finally begin to stir. The chief's words echo in his mind, that he is utterly worthless. He channels that rage into his grip, refusing to surrender. And with another desperate swing, he strikes the anvil again. He's completely spent, gasping for air after that final effort. In his despair, it feels like the goddess herself is mocking him. A familiar voice breaks his concentration, chiding him for overdoing it. It's a girl named Luna, and she's worried he's pushing himself too hard. She warns him he'll be exhausted before the actual test even starts. But Apollo knows his physical state isn't the real problem here. It's the uncontrollable tremor in his hands that truly terrifies him. But Luna refuses to let him wallow in self-pity. She insists that he's capable of incredible things, but Apollo can't bring himself to believe her words. So she gets right in his face, demanding he listen. Her faith in him is absolute, a stark contrast to his own doubt. She reminds him of a time in the past when he saved her. A memory of them running for their lives flashes through his mind. He was just a boy pulling her away from some unseen danger. Their desperate escape led them straight to the edge of a cliff. Trapped with a monster closing in, he had to think fast. Its massive claws tear into the earth as it closes in. A hulking beast driven by pure primal hunger. With Luna on his back, a young Apollo is frozen with fear. But one thought cuts through the panic. He has to save her. Cornered and outmatched, the two children face the monster's wrath. In that moment, their terror is a shared, silent scream. Luna can only watch, her eyes filled with tears. But Apollo's fear hardens into a steely resolve. This memory, she recalls, is from 10 years ago. It was the day the chief warned them not to enter the forest. A warning they promptly ignored, of course. The chief had warned them about the monsters lurking in the woods. But young Apollo was convinced he could already use magic. He was eager to awaken his powers and become a hero. More importantly, he really wanted to impress Luna, because of course he did. So, ignoring all common sense, he ventured into the Forbidden Forest. And it wasn't long before they found exactly what they were told to avoid. A monstrous beast, its eyes burning with primal hunger. Just as the chief had predicted, the children came face to face with danger. Luna cries out his name, her voice trembling with absolute terror. And hearing her, something inside Apollo begins to shift. The weight of his mistake crashes down on him. This is all his fault. But guilt gives way to a single powerful resolve. He has to protect her. And in that instant, a torrent of raw power erupts from his small frame. He lets out a desperate cry as the energy surges through him, uncontrolled. Luna can only watch in stunned silence, not understanding what's happening. The hulking beast is thrown back, caught completely off guard by the sudden blast. He stands his ground, a tiny shield of pure will between his friend and the monster, and just like that, it's over. For some unknown reason, they were saved. Luna recalls that it seemed like the monster was blown away by someone's magic. She turns to Apollo, a question in her eyes, but he's just as confused as she is. But Apollo tries to interject, still lost in his own doubt. She remembers asking him, with stars in her eyes, if he was the one who saved her. Just then, the adults from the village had arrived on the scene. She proudly declared that Apollo was a great wizard who defeated the monster. And according to him, that's been her story ever since that day. Back in the present, she insists that he has some kind of unique ability. With unwavering certainty, she tells him he's destined to become a great wizard. Her faith seems to reach him, and he agrees to keep practicing a while longer. But as he turns to leave, she suddenly calls out for him to wait. She takes his injured hands, and a soft, healing light begins to glow. She channels her magic, summoning ethereal butterflies to heal his injuries. The magical creatures alight on his blisters, their touch soothing the pain. Despite his protests, she continues her work, refusing to miss a single spot. A soft smile plays on her lips, her focus entirely on helping him. In her eyes, there's a conviction that goes beyond simple friendship. Apollo is taken aback, rendered silent by her kindness. She proudly announces she's finished, his hand now a canvas of healing light. Then, while wrapping his hand, she suggests they just leave the village. You know, simple solutions. Apollo reacts with pure shock, unable to process what she just said. She admits the thought of this ungrateful village profiting from his future success is infuriating. Apollo agrees, admitting that they'll probably have to leave anyway. Luna looks up at him, completely surprised by his sudden acceptance. He finally reveals the chief's ultimatum. Fail the test, and he will be exiled. The revelation sends Luna into an absolute sputtering rage. She storms off, ready to give the village chief a piece of her mind. Apollo can only watch her go, instantly regretting his honesty. But her unwavering belief has reignited the fire in his eyes. He clenches his newly healed hand, his resolve hardening. With a firm grip on his hammer, he knows he has to try even harder. And so he returns to the anvil, training alone under the starry sky. He hammers away, the force of his swings cracking the very ground beneath him. Each strike is a desperate prayer, a flash of light against the darkness. But his training earns him nothing but the scorn of his neighbors. Apparently, the pursuit of greatness has a strict curfew in this town. Exhausted, he considers stopping, but one thought keeps him going. Just one more. He raises the hammer again, pouring every last ounce of his will into it. His eyes narrow with a focus that borders on obsession. And with a final defiant grunt, he brings the hammer down. But this time, something is different. The anvil itself begins to fracture. Apollo can only stare in disbelief at what he's just done. The head of his hammer clatters to the ground, broken. He can only stare, realizing his only tool has been destroyed. In the end, it seems all his efforts were for nothing. But a hand reaches down, picking up the fractured metal. A stranger notes how unusual it is, completely devoid of magic. And just like that, a mysterious old man appears out of the moonlight. Talk about a dramatic entrance. Apollo is completely stunned, unable to form a single word. The old man looks down on him, demanding to know who he is. He stands there, an imposing figure cloaked in red and mystery. All Apollo can do is look up, a boy before a titan. Apollo realizes this man is no one he's ever seen before. Suddenly, the stranger's eye glows with an intense magical light. His aura alone is immense, a suffocating pressure that bears down on our boy. The man's voice is gravelly and commanding as he demands to see Apollo's hand. Confused and intimidated, Apollo can only question the bizarre request. He hesitantly offers the hand Luna had so carefully wrapped for him. The old man takes his hand, examining it with an unnerving focus. He notes the emptiness within Apollo is unusual, almost unheard of, so he's special, just not in the way he wanted. The word hits Apollo like a physical blow, confirming his worst fears. The stranger's diagnosis is absolute. His magical power is completely nil. Apollo finally admits the devastating truth to himself. All his years of desperate training flash before his eyes. The realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. He clenches his fist, the word empty echoing in his mind. He falls to the cracked earth, his last shred of hope finally gone. He wonders if all his hard work was truly for nothing. But the old man's voice cuts through his despair with a strange observation. He calls Apollo's body a wonder, polished to perfection without magic. A body this refined, he says, should be able to handle immense physical force. So he's basically a really well-made jar. Got it. Apollo can only look up in confusion, not understanding what he means. The old man tells Apollo to get up, a wild grin spreading across his face. He leans in, promising to show Apollo something he'll have to see to believe. He leads the boy deeper into the woods, away from the broken anvil. Without warning, the stranger seizes Apollo's arm in an iron grip. He yanks the kid to his feet, because personal space is clearly not this guy's strong suit. Apollo stumbles, barely finding his footing after being pulled up so suddenly. The man points to a nearby tree, suggesting it as a target for some kind of test. Apollo hesitates, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. But the old man forces his hand forward, unleashing a torrent of violent purple energy. A complex magic circle materializes from the raw power, crackling with untold force. The energy erupts from Apollo's hand, a violent beam of pure destruction. It slams into the tree, which vanishes in a cataclysmic explosion. Apollo can only stare, his mind completely unable to process the devastation. Where a mighty tree once stood, only a smoldering crater remains. The old man seems pleased, calling the display not bad. A wild hope ignites in Apollo's eyes. He thinks he finally has magic. But the stranger shatters that hope, yelling that it wasn't magic at all. It was pure, unadulterated physical force, a concept Apollo can't grasp. With a grin, the old man offers to teach him how to control this power. For the boy who had nothing, this is an offer he can't possibly refuse. Without a second of hesitation, Apollo bows, begging to be taught. His first attempt at forming a magic circle is clumsy and incomplete. He's stunned to find that he can't even form the basic structure. He manages to complete the circle, but it's unstable and crackling. A look of pure joy crosses his face as he thinks he's finally succeeded. But the circle just fizzles out, producing absolutely nothing. So close, yet so far. He tries again and again, failing 10 times in a row. But on his final attempt, he pours all his focus into his hands. And this time, a torrent of brilliant flame erupts from the circle. He shouts in triumph, the taste of success finally on his lips. But his celebration is cut short by a harsh reprimand from his new mentor. As the flame dies out, Apollo can only offer a quiet apology. The stranger explains that physical force is just another form of incredible power. Hope reignites in Apollo's eyes as he vows to train even harder. But the old man dismisses training, promising a much faster path to power. He explains his own physical force is unique, glowing with a purple hue. He unleashes a tidal wave of violent purple energy, a terrifying display of power. A massive summoning circle forms in the air. This feels a little overkill for a training session. From the vortex, a monstrous maw filled with jagged teeth begins to emerge. A colossal foot slams onto the ground, heralding the arrival of a new nightmare. A monstrous goblin mage erupts from the summoning circle. Apollo is stunned, but his mentor greets the beast like an old acquaintance. So this is just Tuesday for him. The goblin's eyes flare with a menacing purple energy. It channels its own magic, igniting its staff in a ball of fire. The creature lunges forward, ready to incinerate its target. Apollo is caught in the fiery blast, completely overwhelmed. The inferno triggers a memory of another boy, screaming as he's consumed by flames. A vision of a raging, uncontrollable fire flashes through his mind. From that past inferno, a terrifying, bird-like monster had emerged. Snapped back to reality, Apollo shields himself, crying out in terror. His mentor watches with a sadistic grin, clearly enjoying the show. Apollo is consumed by the inferno, the monster's silhouette closing in. He can feel his body starting to ignite from the intense heat. The flames threaten to burn him down to the very bone. He clenches his fist, realizing this isn't a test, it's an execution. In his mind, he's already been reduced to nothing but ash. But just as he accepts his fate, the fire vanishes completely. He stares in disbelief, wondering how he's even still alive. The old man looks on, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. He asks Apollo what he thinks of this incredible physical force. The old man explains that Apollo can feel the power surging through him now. Apollo stares at his hand, where a new glowing blue symbol has appeared. He realizes in a flash that he didn't just survive the attack, he absorbed it. His mentor reminds him that his magical power was, and still is, completely zero, and he makes it painfully clear that this fundamental fact will never change. but he offers a strange piece of encouragement, comparing Apollo to a dry sponge. The training method, it seems, involves getting repeatedly blasted with magic. Fun. Apollo quickly grasps the concept he can absorb magic to build his physical force. He knows this path is incredibly dangerous, a gamble with his own life. But if the scales of fate have given him nothing, then he has nothing left to lose. He clenches his fist, the absorbed power thrumming within him. With a look of pure defiance, he declares he'll take all the power they can throw at him. The old man watches with a smirk, noting it's been a decade since he met someone so similar. His eyes glow with a strange intensity, a hidden plan forming in his mind. But his intense training session is interrupted by a familiar voice calling his name. It's Luna, and from the look on her face, she's been searching everywhere for him. She explains that she saw the massive explosion and feared the worst. Her panic melts into relief, just happy to see that he's safe. He reassures her, explaining he was just training with his mysterious new mentor. But Luna looks past him, completely confused because there's absolutely no one there. Looks like his new teacher is also a ghost. Apollo points to the empty space, completely baffled by his mentor's sudden disappearance. He insists the old man was right there, which only makes Luna think he's finally cracked. But Apollo is left with a single burning question. Who was that mysterious stranger? The next morning arrives, and with it, the day of the fateful magic test. Apollo stands in the village square, ready to face his destiny. Luna is there to cheer him on, while the chief looks on with his usual sunny disposition. The weight of his entire future presses down on him in this single moment. The chief reminds him of the stakes just in case he forgot about the whole exile thing. But Luna immediately leaps to his defense, telling the old man to back off. The chief turns to her, but she refuses to be silenced, ready to fight for her friend. Apollo accepts her words, understanding what he has to do. Luna gives him one last look of encouragement, her faith absolute. He takes a deep breath, focusing all his will into this single moment. His eyes snap open, now burning with a brilliant blue energy. And just like that, we're back where we started. Apollo before the goddess. His companions watch on, one in awe, the other in pure excitement. He channels the raw energy, a confident smirk on his face. From the swirling mana, a new weapon is forged from light itself. He takes hold of the hammer, its power thrumming through his veins. With a surge of newfound strength, he charges into the fray. He lets out a primal roar, channeling every ounce of his newfound power. The hammer of light crashes down, obliterating the testing device. And this time, the scales of fate don't just stir, they shatter completely. The statue of the goddess itself seems to fracture from the sheer force. A shockwave erupts from the point of impact, sending the chief flying. He can only stare, his mind refusing to accept what he's just witnessed. But Luna erupts in a cheer of pure, unadulterated joy. She tackles him in a celebratory hug, her faith finally rewarded. The chief's shock curdles into rage, accusing him of cheating. Because accepting you're wrong is hard. He even connects it to the explosion from the night before, convinced it's all a trick. The chief's eyes narrow, his mind already made up about Apollo's guilt. But Luna fires back, her voice filled with righteous fury, insisting he would never cheat. The chief declares that with the statue broken, they must call in officials to verify the results. The news hits Apollo like a ton of bricks. This is the last thing he wanted. And so, the next day arrives, bringing with it the official examiners. Two officials from the capital stare in awe at the pulverized remains of the testing device. She presents a new, more accurate measuring tool since the old one is, well, dust. The instructions are simple. Just hit the new device with everything he's got. The chief smirks, convinced that Apollo's supposed trickery won't work on the officials. With the threat of exile hanging over him, Apollo prepares for the final judgment. The lead official holds up her own device, ready to get an accurate reading. Apollo focuses, and the symbol on his hand flares with stored energy. He brings his hand down, unleashing a torrent of pure physical force. The officials can only stare in disbelief at the raw power on display, and just like the last one, the new device is completely obliterated. So much for unbreakable. The examiners are stunned, struggling to read the final measurement. The device displays a score of E99, a number that shouldn't even be possible. The lead examiner realizes this power is far beyond anything she's ever seen. The chief can only sit there, his entire worldview shattered in an instant. For the boy who was told he had nothing, this moment is nothing short of a miracle. Apollo stands tall, his newfound power radiating around him as Luna celebrates his victory. The officials, once his judges, now bow before him in absolute reverence. She looks up, her voice filled with awe, asking for the name of this incredible talent. He stammers out his name, completely bewildered by this sudden show of respect. Apollo questions their deference, still not grasping the magnitude of his own power. With a score of E99, she explains, he's already on a level far beyond their own. The reality of his situation finally hits him and he can't believe what he's hearing. She immediately extends an invitation to the capital, offering to send a carriage for him. You know, first-class treatment for the guy they were ready to fail. As he agrees, he catches sight of the villagers, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. The lead official watches him, a quiet understanding in her eyes. He gives one last look back, a smile on his face as he leaves his old life behind. The official watches him, her expression a mix of curiosity and professional interest. That night, under a sky full of stars, the village is quiet once more. But in his small room, Apollo can't sleep, his mind racing with the day's events. He realizes he has almost nothing to pack, because poverty doesn't come with a lot of luggage. As he lies there, a sudden thought cuts through his contemplation. His eyes widen as he remembers one precious item he can't leave behind. He spots a small folded cloth, a forgotten piece of his recent past. He decides this one thing, at least, must come with him on his new adventure. It's the bandage Luna used to heal him, a symbol of the only person who ever believed. He carefully ties the cloth around his arm, a memento for the journey ahead. He grips it tight, the memory of her kindness still fresh in his mind. His thoughts drift back to another time, another bandage. He remembers realizing that this simple gift was the only thing that mattered. It was a symbol of Luna's faith, a light in his world of doubt. But his mind wanders even further, to a time before their bond was forged. He recalls a time when Luna always seemed to be so terribly lonely. He remembers finding her locked away, a prisoner in her own home. And standing guard was none other than the village chief himself. Consistency is key, I guess. A young Apollo had asked what was wrong, his innocence a stark contrast to the scene. The chief tells him there's something they need to talk about. Apollo's eyes widen. He knows exactly where this is going. But before the chief can even start his pitch, Luna appears to run interference. She warns Apollo that the chief is only here to claim him for the village's benefit. The old man stammers, trying to justify his sudden change of heart. He reminds Apollo of his duty, how his success could save them all. His voice is filled with a desperate, almost pathetic frustration. But Luna won't let him forget, urging him to reject the man who cast him out. With his pride shattered, the chief falls to his knees in a final, desperate plea. He begs Sir Apollo to save their village, a complete reversal from his earlier scorn. Talk about a fair-weather friend. Apollo makes his choice clear. If Luna says no, then the answer is no. He reminds the chief that she was the only one who ever stood by his side. And with that, the chief is unceremoniously kicked out, left to beg at the door. Luna scoffs at the old man's hypocrisy, knowing he only cares about personal gain. She turns back to Apollo with a warm smile, brushing off his thanks. She then promises to see him off on his journey tomorrow. After all, he's leaving this small village for a much bigger world. But even now, Apollo struggles to see himself as worthy of it all. Luna, however, insists that his hard work and talent have more than earned him this chance. Her unwavering faith leaves him speechless, her name a quiet acknowledgement on his lips. She wishes him good night, telling him to rest for the big day ahead. Apollo can only watch her go, her words leaving him momentarily stunned. His hand rests on the bandage, a final reminder of her unwavering support. But outside, Luna looks up at the stars, a quiet melancholy settling in. She realizes that this isn't just a see you later, it's a real farewell. His name is a quiet whisper on the wind, a mix of pride and sadness. The next morning, a grand carriage from the capital rolls into the village. An official steps out to greet their new prodigy as the villagers gawk. Funny how everyone shows up now. Apollo arrives with a smile, Luna and a very humbled chief right behind him. The official greets him with the utmost respect, ready to depart on his command. Luna offers a final, smiling farewell to her friend. He looks back, asking her to write to him every once in a while. But as he says her name, another thought seems to strike him. He pulls out the worn cloth she used to heal his hands. He tries to return it, but she's just surprised he kept the old thing. She offers to throw it away, insisting he can afford better now. But Apollo quickly grabs her wrist, refusing to let the cloth go. The sudden gesture leaves Luna completely taken aback. He tells her that he doesn't want something new. Instead, with a brilliant smile, he asks Luna to come with him. Well, that escalated quickly. Luna is left completely speechless, her mind short-circuiting. Her shock quickly melts into a starstruck, blushing mess. She stammers, needing to hear him confirm what she thinks she heard. And with a brilliant smile, Apollo makes his intentions perfectly clear. Her mind races, realizing this isn't just an invitation, it's practically a proposal. The sudden romantic tension sends them both into a flustered panic. But after a moment, her answer is simple and absolute. Apollo's face erupts in pure, unadulterated joy. She teases that he'd be lost without her, and he happily agrees. But his earnestness is too much, and she collapses in embarrassment. Smooth. Real smooth. And so, with their future ahead of them, they run towards a new life. Their journey takes them to the bustling town of Tepoi. But their arrival is met with an unexpected official decree. As their carriage rolls through the main street, something feels off. The townsfolk stop and stare, their faces a mixture of awe and confusion. A strange sound from outside catches their attention. Luna peers out the window, trying to make sense of the commotion. But what she sees leaves her completely and utterly stunned. The entire street is lined with people, all bowing in unison. Apparently news of his talent has preceded him. Luna points out that the entire town is parting for them like the Red Sea. The coachman taps a small gavel, the sound echoing through the silent street. As they move forward, Apollo and Luna can only watch in shared confusion. Apollo wonders aloud if there's someone far more important traveling behind them. But the official clarifies that this display of respect is entirely for him. The boy who was once an outcast can't possibly believe what he's hearing. Luna, however, is absolutely beaming, soaking in every moment of their new status. The official points to the gavel, explaining the source of the strange sound. She reveals a system of taps to signal status. Because of course there's a secret knock for the upper class. Apollo and Luna are left speechless, trying to process this strange new world. Luna is ecstatic, realizing Apollo's new rank is basically that of a mayor. The official confirms it, explaining that it's proper etiquette to give way to those of higher status. Apollo can only offer an awkward laugh, completely unused to this level of attention. He admits he never imagined he'd receive this kind of special treatment. And it seems his new status has already attracted a small, very enthusiastic fan club. The local women are already fighting over him, seeing a golden opportunity to marry into wealth. Luna, however, is less than impressed, asking if he realizes they're trying to hit on him. But Apollo is completely oblivious, thinking she means they want to physically attack him. Bless his heart. Her frustration is palpable as she realizes just how innocent he truly is. As the carriage moves on, Apollo is still confused by the continued display of reverence. They arrive at the Tepoi government office, their first stop in this new world. The group is led through the halls, their expressions a mixture of awe and shock. Their destination is the Magic Research Institute, home to a massive, complex device. An official presents a smaller orb instructing Lord Apollo to begin the test. Luna questions the scale of the machine, but is told it's necessary for his immense power. Apollo takes a deep breath, preparing to show them what he can really do. He focuses his will, channeling his blue energy into the testing device. The familiar symbol on his hand flares to life, a conduit for his physical force. The energy surges into the main device and the readings begin to skyrocket. The machine overloads, unleashing a shockwave that sends everyone flying. Apparently, they're going to need a bigger bathtub. The gauges on the massive machine immediately redline, pushed far beyond their limits. Excess energy erupts from the vents, unable to be contained by the device. And just like all the others, the central crystal begins to crack under the immense pressure. Apollo can only offer a sheepish apology for breaking their very expensive toy. The room is thrown into chaos as the officials scramble to get a final reading. But the result they see leaves them in a state of pure, uncomprehending shock. The lead examiner can only stammer that what he's seeing can't possibly be real. Luna, picking herself up, worries that the shocked faces mean he somehow failed. Apollo just asks if he broke it again, a question that's becoming his signature move. But the official reveals there's another level to their status system, a 5-strike rhythm. Apollo asks about the 5-strike rhythm, reserved only for the highest-ranked magic wielder. He and Luna can only look on, completely confused by the implication. The official explains that his power is completely unmeasurable, far beyond the machine's limit. She declares that he's not just a great wizard, but something far beyond that title. Luna erupts in celebration, while Apollo can barely process the news. The title echoes in his mind, a destiny he never thought possible. So much for being empty. Their journey continues, leading them to the Tepoi government office. They're led to a reception room to await their next meeting. Luna enjoys the hospitality, but Apollo is still trying to digest everything that's happened. They're told to wait for the mayor, who will discuss the next steps of their journey. The official presents them with a golden card, a gift for their troubles. He explains this card will cover all their expenses while in town. It's a reward, he clarifies, befitting someone of Lord Apollo's immense power. The two of them share a look, the reality of their new life finally sinking in. And with a heartfelt thank you, they immediately hit the town for some retail therapy. Luna is clearly enjoying the perks, sporting a brand new pair of glasses. Apollo, meanwhile, is already serving as the designated bag carrier. But their shopping spree is cut short by a familiar feeling: hunger. Luna spots a restaurant that looks far too fancy for their old lives. But Apollo, flush with confidence, decides they might as well give it a try. He holds up the golden card, his ticket to this new world. They're greeted at the entrance by a host with a practiced smile. He hesitantly asks if they accept this form of payment. The host takes the card, his eyes widening at the sight of it. His entire demeanor shifts, his hands clasping in reverence. He immediately offers them the VIP room, no questions asked. Luna can't believe her ears. They're getting the VIP treatment. Apollo realizes this little piece of gold holds some serious sway. Luna reminds him that this is all thanks to his newfound power. She looks at him with that same unwavering faith she's always had. Apollo can't help but smile, feeling her confidence in him. But as they walk, Luna spots a strange poster on a nearby wall. It advertises a distress school, some kind of magic dojo accepting new students. A recruiter appears out of nowhere, asking if they'd like to become disciples. He explains that dojos teach powerful secret forms of magic, but the mere mention of learning magic sends a jolt of pain through Apollo. Luna immediately notices his distress, asking him what's wrong. He tries to play it off, insisting he's fine. Old habits die hard, I see. Back at the restaurant, the host gestures for them to follow him to the VIP room. As he walks, Apollo touches his chest, wondering if the pain has already subsided. The view from their room is a breathtaking panorama of the city at night. Luna presses against the glass, her excitement practically vibrating through the window. They both stare out in awe, completely mesmerized by the glittering lights. She takes his hand, her grip firm and full of pride. She reminds him that she always knew he was destined for greatness. But as he looks at her, she seems to have something else on her mind. Apollo waits, a gentle smile on his face, ready to hear what she has to say. But she suddenly pulls away, flustered, and dismisses the thought entirely. He can only ask what's wrong as she hides her face in embarrassment. She realizes with a jolt that she almost confessed her feelings right then and there. Close call. Apollo can only watch, completely oblivious to her internal romantic crisis. He touches his chest, realizing the strange pain from earlier has vanished. He wonders if her presence alone is enough to soothe his old wounds. But those thoughts are quickly forgotten as their magnificent feast arrives. Luna declares her intention to order one of everything. You know, for science. She digs in with gusto, savoring a taste of the life they never had. But their celebration is cut short by a sudden, violent interruption. A man in a purple suit storms up the stairs, ignoring the staff's protests. He bellows for silence, his voice dripping with arrogance and entitlement. And just like that, their peaceful dinner is ruined by an unwelcome guest. He looks down on them with disdain, calling them hicks and demanding they give up his seat. His follower chimes in, identifying him as Lord Payne, the master of the distress school. Apollo immediately recognizes the name from the Magic Dojo poster he saw earlier. Pine cracks his knuckles, eager to teach these country bumpkins a lesson. But Apollo rises to his feet, refusing to be intimidated by the arrogant display. The man repeats his threat, his voice dripping with condescension. He stands there, smug and confident, ready to make an example of them. Apollo's eyes narrow, a silent refusal to back down from the challenge. He slams his hands on the table, his body tensed for a confrontation. But just as he stands, that same sharp pain sears through his chest once more. Luna calls out his name as he suddenly collapses in agony. She rushes to his side, asking what's wrong as he clutches his chest. But Peen doesn't care, roaring that this place isn't for people like them. He sends their entire table flying with a single violent kick. Their magnificent feast is reduced to a pathetic mess on the floor. So much for ordering one of everything. Luna can only stare at the waste, horrified by his senseless aggression. Pine then grinds his foot into the spilled food just to make a point. His eyes glow with rage as he glares down at the two of them. Luna is frozen in fear, knocked to the floor amidst the chaos. But even through the pain, Apollo's only thought is for her safety. Luna tries to explain they were just following the staff's directions. But the host immediately folds, bowing and apologizing to the arrogant Lord Payne. He offers to find another seat, but Luna's focus is entirely on Apollo. Our boy is still on the ground, gasping for air as the pain intensifies. Pine scoffs at the apology, clearly not interested in a peaceful resolution. The host tries to de-escalate, but his words fall on deaf ears. Instead, Payne summons a magic circle, ready to settle this with force. Because of course he is. Luna helps Apollo to his feet, her voice filled with concern. The host, seeing the situation spiraling, suggests calling for a healer. But Peen just laughs, his eyes glowing with a cruel, menacing light. He unleashes a blast of golden energy, aimed at the terrified host. The magic erupts from his hand in a blinding flash of light. The host is sent flying across the room by the violent, unprovoked attack. Pine roars in fury, enraged that they dared to ignore his grand entrance. With the staff dealt with, he turns his attention to Luna, grabbing her arm. He yanks her to her feet, her cry of pain echoing in the ruined room. From the floor, Apollo can only watch, his breath catching in his throat. Tears stream down Luna's face as she's held captive by the arrogant lord. This guy really knows how to make friends. But seeing her in danger ignites something in Apollo, a rage that burns away the pain. A torrent of blue energy explodes from him, his power finally unleashed. A complex circle of blue energy forms, fueled by his protective rage. He calls upon a power he's never used, the Sword of 10 Breaths. His only thought is a silent, furious demand. Get your hands off her. But Peen's own magic is instantly overwhelmed by the sheer force. A pillar of pure physical force crashes down, a heavenly sword of retribution. The arrogant lord can only scream as he's consumed by the raw power. The attack sends him flying, blasting him straight through the restaurant's roof. Guess he's getting his wish to leave. He can only gasp in pain, his arrogance shattered by the sudden assault. Apollo holds his stance, the raw power still radiating from his hand. He falls to one knee, the energy fading, leaving only destruction in its wake. Luna can only stare, her voice a whisper of pure amazement. He rushes to her side, but she's more impressed than hurt by the display. Apollo just smiles, admitting the power came out on its own. He looks at his hand, still not understanding the force he commands. He may not grasp the how, but he definitely knows the why. All that matters is that he was able to protect her. Luna pulls him into a tight embrace, her voice muffled with gratitude. They're left alone in the wreckage, a quiet moment amidst the chaos. Guess they're not getting their deposit back. Apollo is a little flustered by the sudden display of affection, but Luna grabs his hand, her eyes sparkling as she calls him cool. Luna points to the hole in the roof, excitedly asking him to do it again. Apollo agrees, striking the same pose to summon the heavenly sword, but his face contorts in confusion as absolutely nothing happens. Luna watches on, wondering what could possibly be wrong. He tries again, straining with all his might to call forth the power, but his hand remains empty, leaving him completely bewildered. He remembers the surge of energy, the feeling of control he had just moments ago. He apologizes to Luna, admitting that he can't seem to replicate the feat. Guess his powers are a bit shy on command. But she just smiles, reassuring him that it's okay for a beginner to be inconsistent. He can only agree, though a deep sense of unease settles within him. The restaurant staff quietly begins to clean up the wreckage of their meal. The host bows deeply, apologizing for the ruined evening. He then urges them to leave, his face bruised from Peen's earlier attack. Apollo asks why, and the host gestures to the dojo poster on the wall. He warns them that Lord Payne's disciples will surely come for revenge. Luna immediately agrees, ready to get out of there before things get worse. But Apollo stops her, a sudden realization dawning on his face. Outside, a gang of thugs in purple are already terrorizing the street. Looks like the welcoming committee has arrived. Their eyes glow with a menacing red light, clearly looking for a fight. And leading them is Lord Payne, screaming about a sneak attack and a lack of manners. The irony is apparently lost on him. Apollo recognizes the thugs, realizing they're from the distressed dojo. One of the goons grabs him, sneering at the country bumpkins who dared to fight back. Pine boasts that as the school's master, he can easily crush their futures. Luna worries that their newfound recognition will be snatched away before it even begins. The entire gang closes in, their expressions promising a world of hurt. But Apollo's head is bowed, his mind racing for a way out of this mess. He shoves Luna behind him, his voice low as he tells them to knock it off. Pine, still bleeding from the earlier attack, can't believe the defiance. This kid has a death wish, Luna watches on, thinking of how hard they both worked for this one chance. And Apollo makes it clear he won't let some arrogant bully take it all away. He roars in defiance, refusing to let this bully destroy his future. Luna can only watch in shock as his power erupts once more. But Payne just laughs, finding the boy's futile resistance hilarious. He gathers his own energy, ready to make a public example of Apollo. But Apollo is already in his stance, the blue circle glowing with immense power. His eyes burn with that same brilliant blue light, focused and deadly. He calls upon the same power as before, the Sword of 10 Breaths. The energy swirls around his hand, a conduit for his raw physical force, and he gives the attack a name that's, well, it's certainly a choice. A tidal wave of blue energy erupts, taking the form of a celestial dragon. The dragon-shaped energy swirls around him, a storm of pure physical force. The blast rips through the street, sending Peen's thugs flying in every direction. He lets out a primal roar, channeling all his rage into this single devastating attack. Pine can only watch in disbelief as his own power is completely erased. His followers can only scream his name, their arrogance turning to pure terror. The Sword of 10 Breaths erupts once more, a pillar of judgment from the heavens. Lord Pain plummets from the sky, his reign of terror ending in a fiery blue crash. So much for the master of the dojo. Apollo stands firm, his voice a low promise that no one will ever hurt Luna again, and Luna can only stare, completely mesmerized by the beautiful destruction. He plants his feet, the battle over as quickly as it began. Pain lies defeated, unable to comprehend his loss to a so-called country bumpkin. But Apollo's expression is cold, his eyes glowing with a merciless light. The arrogant lord can only stare back in pure, unadulterated terror. Apollo gathers his energy again, making it clear this fight isn't over. From the sidelines, Luna watches in horror, realizing he's going too far. She immediately sprints forward, desperate to intervene. Pain lets out a pathetic scream, knowing the final blow is coming. Luna screams his name, begging him to stop before he makes a fatal mistake. She throws herself between them, grabbing his arm to halt the attack. With all her might, she pleads with him to stop, trying to pull him back from the brink. But the blue light in Apollo's eyes hasn't faded. His rage is far from over. He tries to gather his power for one final, decisive blow, but her hands hold his, a desperate attempt to pull him back from the edge. Her voice finally breaks through the haze, and he looks at her in surprise. She stands protectively before the defeated lord, begging Apollo to stop. He tries to protest, insisting that this man deserves whatever's coming to him. But Luna's grip is unyielding, a silent plea for him to listen. Pine's followers can only try to comfort their broken master. So much for the big boss. She tells him she won't let him throw away his future by becoming a murderer. And just like that, the power recedes and he finally relents. Her words break through his rage, and the blue energy finally fades. Later that night, back in their provided quarters, the city is quiet. But Apollo can't rest, trying to summon the power he just unleashed. He stares at his hand, questioning where that incredible force went. He tries to replicate the stance, focusing all of his will into his hand. But his intense concentration yields absolutely nothing. He realizes that on command, his incredible power is completely useless. Guess it only works when he's about to die. His mind flashes back to the fight, to his desperation on the street. He remembers the vow he made to protect the future they fought for. It was his rage, his will to protect Luna, that unlocked his true strength. He recalls the look in his own eyes, burning with a cold, protective fury. He remembers clenching his fist, calling upon an unknown power. The energy had surged through his arm, a familiar blue glow. He had unleashed the Sword of 10 Hand Breaths, and he'd given it the incredibly creative name, Excalibur. Points for effort, I guess. The attack had manifested as a torrent of pure, destructive energy. Now he's left wondering why that power only awakens in moments of crisis. His thoughts are interrupted as Luna returns to their room. He immediately asks if she's all right after the chaos of the evening. She reassures him with a bright smile, seemingly unfazed by it all. She confirms that Peen's disciples carried him away, so he's probably fine. But Apollo is more worried about the trouble they caused for the restaurant staff. He admits he couldn't care less about Peen. His only concern was Luna. She explains the host wasn't worried, thanks to something called magic insurance. Of course that's a thing. With a brilliant smile, she confirms that she's perfectly fine and no one blamed her. Apollo breathes a sigh of relief, but Luna quickly changes the subject. She gushes about his Excalibur attack, calling the brilliant blue light super cool. But Apollo's face falls as he admits he can't control the power on command. He explains that the power only seems to awaken when he needs to protect her. The revelation leaves Luna completely stunned, pointing to herself in disbelief. He theorizes that his power is directly and specifically tied to protecting her. The implication of his words sends Luna into a blushing, flustered mess. The thought that his power exists just for her is almost too much to handle. She stands abruptly, trying to process the weight of his confession. He asks what's wrong, but she quickly dismisses his concern with a shout. He points out her bright red face, but she blames it on a convenient sunburn. Smooth. Apollo, ever the gentleman, completely buys it and insists she get some rest. She can't believe he's so innocent, falling for such an obvious lie. She realizes that despite his new power, some things haven't changed at all. His earnest, slightly clueless nature is still the same as it's always been. The government building settles into a quiet stillness under the night sky, and while Luna is fast asleep, the day's chaos is a distant memory. Apollo remains awake, sitting by candlelight, lost in thought. He realizes his power is a paradox. It only works to save her, which means she has to be in danger first. He looks over at her sleeping form, the source of his strength. She's completely unaware of the new weight he carries on his shoulders. He makes a silent vow to master this power, to wield it on his own terms. The sun rises, casting a new light on his unwavering determination. Luna finally begins to stir, stretching as she greets the new day. But she wakes to find Apollo already meditating, having clearly been up all night. Someone's motivated. She grabs his face, her morning greeting filled with concern. She points out the dark circles under his eyes, and he admits he's been up all night. Luna scolds him for his obsessive training, a habit she knows all too well. But Apollo brushes it off, excitedly telling her to watch what he's learned. He strikes his familiar pose, ready to show her the fruits of his sleepless night. He tries to summon the same incredible power from the night before, the legendary sword of 10 handbreaths. But this time, a completely different energy gathers in his hand, a soft pink glow. A ribbon of light shoots from his fingertips, a far cry from the destructive force he expected. Luna can only stare in shock as this new, gentler power manifests before them. So much for Excalibur. Luna is in awe, asking if he can finally control his power at will. But she notices a strange detail, questioning why he's using his ring finger. Apollo just smiles, confirming this is the result of his sleepless night. His mind flashes back to the night before, tormented by his own weakness. He'd spent hours by candlelight, trying to replicate the incredible power. The memory of Luna being threatened by Peen fueled his determination. He couldn't stand the thought of being powerless when she needed him most. His entire being was focused on one single thought: to protect her. He had pushed through the pain and frustration, focusing all his will. And now he stands ready to show her exactly what he's learned. He'd spent the night pushing himself, focusing his will into his hand. His training was endless, his mind completely clear of distraction. He poured every ounce of his being into this singular, desperate goal. This unwavering focus has always been Apollo's greatest strength. But as Luna knows all too well, it's also his greatest weakness. His ability to set a goal and charge at it is what got him here. But in those moments, Apollo shuts down everything else, becoming almost robotic. He doesn't feel the strain or the effort like a normal person would. For most, that kind of training leads to exhaustion and burnout. But for Apollo, there is no joy or pain in it. There is only the mission. In this state, Apollo feels absolutely nothing, his mind a blank slate. It's as if his emotions are a luxury he can't afford during his training. But his focus is shattered by a sudden, sharp gasp of pain. He clutches his chest, the same mysterious agony from before returning with a vengeance. A faint blue light emanates from his hand, his power stirring in response. He struggles to breathe, completely overwhelmed by the invisible assault. But even through the pain, he forces his arm forward, refusing to give up. He stumbles to his feet, determined to master this power no matter the cost. And through sheer force of will, the blue energy finally answers his call. But as he collapses, we see he's being watched by a mysterious old man. Great, another spectator. The mysterious observer grabs Apollo, demanding his undivided attention. He summons a butterfly of purple energy, a playful but menacing display. The small flame explodes into a torrent of power, sending Apollo flying. Our boy is sent tumbling through a strange, ethereal void. He lands in a daze, completely disoriented and unsure of where he is. The old man appears, cryptically explaining he planted a seed in Apollo. He tells Apollo that he's hit a wall, a new hurdle on his path. Apollo agrees, realizing this man understands his current struggle perfectly. The old man considers this, wondering if he should just turn a blind eye. Guess grandpas aren't always the helpful type. But Apollo's resolve is unshaken. He refuses to remain powerless. He declares that without control, he won't be able to protect Luna when it counts. The old man's smug expression shows he's intrigued by the boy's desperation. He reveals there's a guaranteed way to unlock his power, but it's not without risk. He holds a glowing orb, asking what Apollo is willing to sacrifice for this control. The two sit opposite each other in the void, a master and a desperate student. Apollo asks what he must do to wield his magic whenever he chooses. The old man raises a single finger, explaining there is one simple condition. Apollo can only watch completely at the mercy of this mysterious guide. The man confirms the name of his power, the sword of 10 handbreaths. He explains each finger holds a different sword, activated by a different situation, so he's a walking Swiss Army knife of magical blades. The man explains that Apollo can add his own conditions to each finger. By narrowing the activation requirements, the power becomes easier to unleash. Apollo's eyes burn with a desperate, renewed determination. He begs the old man to teach him how to set these new rules. And back in the present, it seems the lesson was a success. He proudly tells Luna he can now use his power freely whenever she needs protecting. She can only point to herself, completely floored by the personal declaration. His mind flashes back to the moments he felt completely helpless. He remembers her tears, a failure he vows never to repeat again. He makes his promise, but Luna wonders if this mysterious old man put him up to it. Luna questions his choice of the left ring finger, finding it a bit odd. Apollo flashes back, remembering his own confusion about the specific choice. The old man had explained the condition. This power activates only to protect her. Apollo had been overjoyed, thanking his mysterious mentor for the lesson. The old man called the ring finger a symbol of eternity, a fitting choice for protecting a loved one. Well, that's not subtle at all. Back in the present, Apollo struggles to recall the old man's exact words. But their conversation is cut short by a sudden knock at the door. Luna cautiously opens it, wondering who could be visiting them. A government official greets them, holding a letter from a messenger. She takes the sealed envelope, her curiosity piqued by the unexpected message. The letter summons them to a new part of the city, a district of towering, unfamiliar architecture. Luna pulls him through the streets, insisting they have to hurry for an important meeting. She explains he needs to dress the part so he won't be underestimated for his country roots. A quick glance at his worn boots proves her point entirely. They arrive at their destination, an opulent building that screams expensive. Apollo can only agree with her assessment that the place looks incredibly luxurious, but Luna reminds him of his golden card as she reaches for the door, time to put it to good use. Her entrance is cut short as a man in a suit rudely shoves past her. Apollo immediately calls out her name, his protective instincts flaring, but the scene cuts to a new warrior, revealing another legendary power, the Sword of 10 Handbreaths, Leva Tain. Luna lets out a cry of surprise as she's shoved out of the way. She's sent tumbling backwards, a strange pink energy trailing behind her. She flails through the air, about to take a nasty fall down the stairs. But Apollo catches her, his power flaring to life as she thanks him. The man who pushed her scoffs, calling them peasants and telling them to leave. Luna is ready to fight, but Apollo holds her back, trying to de-escalate. He insists they just find another shop, but Luna is still fuming at the insult. The rude employee suddenly bows deeply as a luxurious carriage arrives. An elegant high-heeled shoe steps onto the cobblestone street, and from the carriage emerges a stunning woman in blue, radiating an aura of pure, untouchable arrogance. The employee's demeanor shifts entirely as he welcomes the newcomer, Lady Astria. A flashback shows Luna angrily dragging Apollo away from the shop. But Apollo looks back, a gentle smile on his face as he's welcomed inside. Lady Astria's gaze lingers, her thoughts clearly fixed on the boy she just saw. The employee apologizes for the scene, claiming he has an urgent matter to attend to. He announces his sudden departure, a strange end to the confrontation. He then vaults over a nearby couch in a mad dash for the exit. So much for professionalism. But Lady Astria calmly orders him to go after the two he just dismissed. Later, Apollo and Luna find a quiet spot to eat in the bustling town square. Luna takes out her frustration on her food, still fuming over the rude employee. She vents her frustration, asking Apollo if he agrees with her. But her tirade is cut short by the arrival of the very man she's complaining about. He lunges forward, his hands reaching for her in a sudden, aggressive move. Apollo shouts her name, his protective instincts already flaring. The scene cuts away, revealing another of his legendary powers, Leva Tain. A flash of pink energy repels the man, pushing him away from Luna. Apollo stands covered in their lunch, having taken the brunt of the assault. She points at him, a mix of relief and amusement at his messy state. They both look up, suddenly aware of the scene they've caused. But a calm voice apologizes, belonging to the elegant Lady Astria. Lady Astria offers a graceful apology for the recent disturbance. She clarifies that her servant is entirely to blame for the incident. She produces a pristine white handkerchief, ready to make amends. To his shock, she kneels and begins cleaning the mess from his clothes. He tries to stop her, insisting that they're the ones who should be sorry. But she simply smiles, insisting that she will compensate them for the trouble. Apollo and Luna are left speechless, unsure how to react to this strange turn of events. She then leads them back to the very same opulent shop they were just kicked out of. A new doorman greets them as Luna stares up at the towering building. He bows deeply, confirming that they've been expecting Lady Astria. Well, that's one way to get past the bouncer. Lady Astria leans in close, her expression a mix of warning and intrigue. She gives him a simple, condescending order. Don't embarrass her. A well-dressed man gestures them inside with a practiced, welcoming smile. The employee greets Apollo by name, leaving him completely stunned. He explains that as Lady Astria's guest, his identity is already known. With a hand on his shoulder, he leads Apollo away to get changed. Meanwhile, Luna is treated to a cart of exquisite pastries and tea. The staff even knows her name, urging her to relax and enjoy herself. As Luna marvels at the feast, Lady Astria watches with a knowing look. She asks Luna if she finds Apollo amazing, a question that's clearly not about the pastries. Luna is completely taken aback by the sudden personal question. Lady Astria recalls the moment Apollo's power flared to protect her. She notes how flawlessly he shielded Luna from the servant's clumsy attack. As she pours tea, she admits she's never seen anything quite like it. His reflexes and control, she explains, surpass even highly skilled magic users. Luna's eyes light up, practically sparkling with pride at the high praise. She gushes about how cool Apollo is, promising he's destined for greatness. Lady Astria simply smiles, agreeing that she believes in his potential. Luna's mind flashes back to their village, where everyone mocked his talent. And yet here he is, being recognized by someone of Astria's stature. She's overjoyed, finally finding someone who recognizes Apollo's incredible talent. But Lady Astria's smile is calculating as she questions his lack of official status. Luna explains they're new in town, waiting for a meeting with the mayor. The information seems to strike a chord with Astria, her eyes glowing with intensity. She turns to her servant, who nervously awaits her command. She asks a simple question, wanting to know the name of the current mayor. The entire staff freezes, clearly terrified of giving the wrong answer. The servant stammers out the name, but Astria dismisses it with casual disdain. Guess Lord Amos isn't on her Christmas card list. Luna can only watch, completely bewildered by the woman's casual power. She declares that making a wizard of Apollo's caliber wait is a serious political misstep. She sends a message to the mayor, giving him until sunset to respond. Her servant scurries off, leaving Luna completely stunned by her casual command. Luna finally asks the question on her mind. Is Astria from a rich family? Lady Astria offers a small, mysterious smile, not quite answering the question. She brushes off the inquiry, more interested in hearing about Lord Apollo. And with that simple prompt, Luna begins to recount Apollo's entire life story. She recounts everything from their childhood to his recent awakening of power. The story is so long that the teapot has to be refilled not once, but twice. Astria listens patiently as Luna talks through an entire platter of cakes. Guess the story is as good as the pastries. With a mouthful of food, Luna finally concludes her tale, beaming with pride. Lady Astria thanks Luna, a quiet understanding dawning on her face. With the plates now empty, Luna asks what she means by all this. Astria explains she approached them because of the look on Apollo's face. She saw a powerful resolve in his eyes, a strength most people lack. Luna questions this, pointing out that faces can be deceiving. But their conversation is cut short as Astria compliments a new arrival. Apollo steps out looking dapper but a bit stiff in his new formal attire. He asks for Luna's opinion and she admits it doesn't quite feel like his style. But before he can respond, Lady Astria places her hands on the table. She grabs his arm, offering her help with a very confident smile. An employee wheels in a massive, ornate mirror at her command. She directs his gaze to their reflection, her hands resting on his shoulders. She tells him to visualize the one thing he's sworn to protect. And in his mind's eye, he sees only Luna's smiling face. Memories of her joy and laughter flood his thoughts, his one true motivation. As he focuses, she makes a subtle adjustment to his posture. His entire demeanor changes, his eyes now shining with confidence. He turns, and Luna is left speechless by his sudden transformation. Apparently, it's all in the attitude. She asks in awe if that was some kind of powerful magic, but Astria simply smiles, claiming it was nothing so grand. She explains that his transformation was a result of his own thoughts and abilities. Luna's face lights up, finally understanding the true nature of his power. She gushes to Astria about his untapped potential, as Apollo wonders when they got so close. But their chat is cut short by the frantic return of Astria's servant. He bows deeply, announcing that Mayor Amos has arrived in person. A cold, satisfied look crosses Lady Astria's face. Her plan is working perfectly. She calmly instructs her servant to show the mayor in, her authority unquestioned. Luna is ecstatic, realizing they no longer have to chase down their meeting. The sound of heavy footsteps echoes through the opulent shop. A portly man named Amos enters, fawning over Lady Astria. Guess her message was received loud and clear. Lady Astria's eyes glow as she asks the mayor how he plans to handle Apollo. The mayor is completely lost, stammering Apollo's name in utter confusion. Luna politely introduces herself and the newly dressed Apollo to the flustered official. But the name still doesn't ring a bell, leaving the mayor completely clueless. Astria spells it out for him, mentioning the irregularity in Apollo's magic reading. And just like that, a light bulb finally goes off in the mayor's head. Took him long enough. He remembers the report from his vice mayor, laughing with sudden, sweaty realization. He gets a little too friendly, slapping Apollo on the back as our boy recoils. But Astria's gaze is ice cold, accusing him of neglecting his duties. The mayor's jovial facade shatters, replaced by pure, unadulterated fear. The mayor frantically denies any wrongdoing, blaming his busy schedule for the oversight. But Astria's gaze is unforgiving, reminding him that recruiting talent is national policy. He stammers out the same weak excuses, sweating profusely under her intense stare. She looms over him as he grovels on the floor, begging for forgiveness for his incompetence. The terrified official swears on his father's name, his authority completely shattered. But Luna steps forward, calling him out for ignoring their repeated requests for a meeting. The mayor's face twists in rage as she explains how urgent the matter was to his staff. He finally snaps, telling the little girl to shut up. Real professional, this guy. But Apollo's cold voice cuts through the tension, confirming Luna's story is true. The mayor immediately pivots back to Astria, promising a much deeper explanation. Lady Astria grabs the mayor's face, her patience clearly at its end. Her voice is a low whisper, asking if he truly understands his mistake. The mayor grovels, begging for mercy as her power radiates through the room. But she dismisses him with a wave, telling him to leave her sight. Apollo and Luna can only watch, stunned by the sheer display of authority. She gives him one final chilling order, to do his job properly from now on. The terrified mayor is then unceremoniously escorted from the premises. Guess he won't be forgetting this meeting anytime soon. Luna whispers that Astria seems furious, but Apollo completely misses the signs. Astria then announces she knows just the place to send Apollo. Our boy can only react with surprise, caught in the whirlwind of her plans. Lady Astria's smile is sharp and calculating, her intentions hidden. She tells Apollo he deserves far more recognition for his talent. He's a little stunned by the sudden praise, but Luna is absolutely beaming. Her poise and elegance are a stark contrast to their humble origins. Luna can't help but gush, completely won over by their new benefactor. And then comes the invitation, a personal visit to her home. She frames it as a matter of fate, a casual offer with a hidden weight. Luna's eyes go wide, completely shocked by the incredible offer. Astria wants to hear more stories, her interest in Apollo clearly growing. But Luna doesn't hesitate for a second. Her answer an enthusiastic yes. Apollo smiles, agreeing to the visit if it's what Luna wants. Lady Astria is delighted, promising to make the arrangements immediately. Luna is practically vibrating with excitement over the incredible invitation. She then turns to Apollo, asking if he's curious why she's so eager to go. He obliges, and she explains it's because Astria is the first person to truly see his worth. Apollo tries to downplay the praise, but Luna isn't having any of it. She insists with a confident wink that he is, in fact, amazing. She gets right in his face, demanding he accept the compliment, and he can only agree. Luna is thrilled at the thought of gushing about him with their new benefactor. She reminds him of Astria's promise to connect them with powerful people. Their journey takes them far from the bustling capital into the serene countryside. They travel in a private carriage, a luxury provided by their new benefactor. Luna is the first to notice, realizing they're leaving the city entirely. Lady Astria confirms with a knowing smile that her home is not in the city. She explains that her father is just a little bit overprotective. He insisted she live in a calm and safe area, far from the capital's chaos. The carriage rumbles on, taking them deeper into the secluded landscape. Soon, a massive estate appears on the horizon, nestled among the trees. Luna asks in awe if that's the town where Lady Astria lives. But Astria clarifies with a smirk that it's not a town, it's her house. Okay, so rich was an understatement. Apollo and Luna can only stare in silent, shared disbelief. They struggle to process her words as Astria calmly repeats herself. Their minds reel at the idea that this entire castle town could be her home. But Lady Astria confirms it with a smile. The entire estate is hers. The realization hits them like a ton of bricks. This isn't a town, it's a mansion. Luna finally finds her voice, asking just who their new benefactor really is. Apollo is right there with her, completely speechless at the sheer scale of wealth. But Astria just offers another one of her mysterious knowing smiles. She claims to be a simple girl who's just a fan of Apollo. Sure, and I'm the king of a small country. The carriage continues on, approaching the impossibly grand estate. The carriage rumbles through the gates, revealing a town within the walls. Apollo and Luna can only press their faces against the glass in disbelief. He points to a massive crowd gathered in the main square waiting for them. He asks if they're the local townspeople, but Astria calmly says no. She clarifies that the entire population is her personal staff, welcoming her home. Must be nice to have that kind of welcome party. Apollo lets out a nervous laugh as Luna's jaw practically hits the floor. Luna finally asks the question on both their minds. Is Astria a princess? But their host just chuckles, casually denying any royal connection. She claims her father just happens to dote on her a little too much. The carriage finally pulls up to the main building, a palace bathed in the golden light of sunset. A stern-looking maid approaches, her posture perfectly professional. She bows deeply, welcoming Lady Astria home with practiced reverence. Astria introduces her guests, asking her head maid Themis to prepare their quarters. Themis suggests the eastern mansion, but Astria questions the change of plans. She leans in, explaining that there's a problem on the northern grounds. Beyond the outer walls, the sunset sky is tainted by an ominous presence. A magical beast has appeared, its dark energy shattering a containment seal. Its massive hand strains against the glowing magical chains meant to bind it. The creature roars in fury, a monstrous reptile breaking free of its prison. But a lone figure stands against it, summoning a fireball to face the threat. Looks like the welcoming party has some uninvited guests. The lone wizard erects a golden barrier, desperately trying to contain the beast. But the creature is unfazed, shrugging off the magical assault with a furious roar. Its many eyes burn with rage as it strains against its glowing purple bonds. The wizard can only watch in horror as his spells prove completely useless. Themis explains that her guards are desperately trying to subdue the creature. She assures her lady that the entire area has been safely sealed off. But Luna suddenly interrupts, raising her hand like an eager student in class. She asks for clarification about this so-called magical beast. Her mind flashes back to the terrifying monsters that prey on humans. Lady Astria confirms her fears. It's a general term for man-eaters. Looks like dinner might be a bit more exciting than they planned. Luna grabs Apollo's leg, a sudden, brilliant idea forming in her mind. She shoves him forward, proudly declaring that Apollo will be the one to defeat the beast. Lady Astria and her headmaid share a look of profound, unimpressed silence. Apollo can only shout her name, completely blindsided by her sudden confidence. Astria eyes him with open skepticism, questioning if he's really up to the task. Luna reminds him of their host's generosity, insisting this is how they'll repay her. Astria considers the offer, a flicker of amusement in her eyes as she begins to object. But Luna grabs her hand, pleading for her to let Apollo handle this as a guest's duty. She gushes that she's seen his true power and wants Astria to witness it too. With a small, intrigued smile, Lady Astria finally agrees, formally requesting his help. Apollo looks nervous as Luna enthusiastically volunteers him for the job. He reluctantly agrees, knowing he's been completely backed into a corner. His mind flashes to the power he just unlocked, the Levitain on his ring finger. He remembers the very specific condition required for its activation. It's a power meant solely to protect Luna from immediate, direct harm. He realizes a defensive shield won't do much against a rampaging monster, so much for his one controllable skill. Lady Astria watches him, her expression unreadable as she waits for an answer. Apollo clenches his fist, his mind racing as he weighs his limited options. Luna senses his hesitation, her confident smile fading into genuine concern. He closes his eyes, a single daunting question echoing in his mind. Can he really do this? The guards can only shout warnings as the beast strains against its magical chains. Their attacks are completely useless against the creature's impenetrable hide. A single swipe sends a guard flying, his armor shattering on impact. But Apollo clenches his fist, his resolve hardening for Luna and their new benefactor. With newfound determination, he asks them to let him handle the situation. He declares he'll defeat the beast, earning a proud cheer from Luna and a smug look from Astria. He charges forward, a streak of blue energy against the monster's fiery rage. And now for a quick biology lesson. Monsters are categorized by diet, starting with the peaceful herbivores. Then there are the carnivores, vicious predators that feast on animal flesh. And third are the non-eaters, who apparently run on pure spite and magic. And finally, we have the fourth and most dangerous category of all. The ones that specifically hunt and devour humans, the man-eaters. As the sun sets over the massive estate, the stage is set for a deadly confrontation. Apollo is escorted to the battle site, flanked by a small army of guards. No pressure, kid. But his mind is focused on the promise he just made to take this thing down. He recalls the overwhelming power he used against Pine, a technique he hasn't been able to replicate. That incredible strength has remained dormant ever since that one desperate battle. Even now, as he walks toward the monster, he can't feel a trace of that power. He reaches out his hand, but his greatest weapon refuses to answer his call. Luna senses his hesitation, her voice cutting through his thoughts with concern. He quietly confirms that his power is useless unless she's in danger. He walks forward, his mind plagued by a single, terrifying doubt. But Luna's voice cuts through the fear, begging him to believe in himself. She insists with a confident wink that his magic will answer his call. She becomes his personal cheerleader, much to the confusion of the guards. Her unwavering faith is enough to bring a small smile to his face. With renewed resolve, he decides to put his trust in her words. On the other side of the wall, the beast's many eyes glow with malice. The magical seal containing the creature begins to shatter under the strain. They arrive at the barrier just as it groans, ready to give way. With a calm command, Lady Astria orders the gate to be opened. A massive magical barrier parts, revealing the battlefield beyond. Luna can only stare in awe as the gate slowly grinds open. Apollo watches with a bead of sweat, the reality of the situation sinking in. Through the opening, a pair of glowing purple eyes stare back from the darkness. The beast is fully revealed, a monstrous reptile bound in glowing magical chains. It lets out a deafening roar, lunging forward with unrestrained fury. The guards reassure them that the barrier and restraining magic will hold the creature, for now, but they admit its hide is too tough to pierce, preparing for a long, drawn-out battle. Apollo stares up at the monster, a single thought echoing in his mind. How can he possibly win? But Lady Astria watches the scene unfold with a calm, knowing smirk. Her calm is shattered by Luna's sudden, determined shout. Apollo's face twists in horror, his eyes wide with disbelief. Because Luna has just charged past the gate, straight toward the monster. The guards and even Astria can only stare in stunned silence. Apollo screams her name, a wave of pure panic washing over him. But Luna declares this is how she'll show everyone his true power. She braces herself, knowing she's just done something incredibly reckless. Well, that's one way to activate his magic. She runs right up to the beast, trying to draw its undivided attention. The guards and Astria shout warnings, calling her back from the danger zone. The beast's many eyes lock onto Luna, its new and very willing target. And just in time for dinner, the magical restraints finally begin to snap. It swings a massive arm, ready to crush the girl who dared to challenge it. Even Lady Astria loses her composure, screaming for someone to save her. And right on cue, a familiar blue aura erupts from Apollo. Her plan worked a little too well. In a blur of motion, he snatches Luna from the jaws of death. A single brilliant slash of energy severs the monster's arm, ending the fight in an instant. He lands with Luna safely in his arms, the blue aura fading around him. He grips her hand, a silent promise that he'll always be there to protect her. But the danger isn't over. He shoves her to safety as an even greater power begins to form. The scene cuts away, revealing the name of his power, Laivatain. Lady Astria's eyes widen, a flicker of awe replacing her usual calm. He carries Luna to safety, the dust settling around them. The guards are stunned, realizing he ended the fight with a single blow. She whispers to herself, finally witnessing the true extent of his power. The monster's severed arm thuds to the ground, the immediate threat neutralized. Luna looks up at her hero, her expression a mix of pride and adoration. He asks if she's all right, his voice filled with genuine concern. She confirms she's fine, still held securely in his arms. They stand in the golden light, the battle over as quickly as it began. Guess her plan wasn't so crazy after all. She asks if her reckless stunt was all just to activate his power. She smiles, admitting she wasn't scared because she knew he would save her. As the beast lies defeated, Apollo quietly agrees with her unwavering faith. He makes a new vow. Protecting her is now his absolute, unwavering purpose. The sun sets on the massive estate, the immediate danger now past. They walk away from the battlefield, leaving the guards to clean up the mess. Lady Astria is still processing what she saw, a single blow felling the monster. Luna proudly shows him off, asking Astria if she saw how strong he is. Astria's mind is racing, assessing his power to be far greater than she imagined. Luna gushes that if he's this cool with one finger, he'll be unstoppable with all 10. Lady Astria wonders if there's even more to Apollo's power than she's seen. Luna proudly announces he has a legendary heavenly sword in his arsenal. Astria remains skeptical as her guards inspect the fallen creature. But the ground trembles as the beast begins to stir, far from defeated. Apollo senses the danger, his gaze locking onto the rising threat. With a powerful leap, the monster is back in the fight, stronger than before. Luna and Astria shout in alarm, realizing the creature is still alive. It reveals a new form, its wings unfurling as it prepares for round 2. The beast takes flight, a shocking turn of events for everyone watching. Oh great, it flies now. It soars high above the estate, a terrifying silhouette against the sunset sky. The winged beast dives from the sky, a blur of green and purple fury. Its target is clear, Lady Astria, who can only watch in frozen terror. Apollo reaches out, trying to summon the power that saved Luna moments ago, but nothing happens. His hand remains empty, his power refusing to answer his call. He realizes with dawning horror that the condition is absolute. It only works for Luna. Astria's calm facade finally cracks, her eyes wide with genuine fear. Looks like being rich doesn't make you monster-proof. With no magic to rely on, Apollo makes a split-second heroic decision. He shoves Astria to safety, taking the full force of the monster's attack himself. She tumbles to the ground as a guard rushes to her side, completely unharmed. but Luna can only scream his name, watching the reckless, selfless sacrifice. He's crushed in the monster's grip, the impact forcing blood from his mouth. The beast takes to the sky, carrying its new prize with it. Luna can only scream in horror, completely helpless to save him. The guards finally react, launching a desperate volley to rescue their guest. But their arrows and spells bounce harmlessly off the creature's hide. Even in agony, a dark determination fills Apollo's blood-soaked expression, and in the darkness of his mind, a strange blue energy begins to spark. A mysterious voice whispers a single, chilling command: to devour everything. Apollo questions the voice, a new presence stirring deep within him. The energy swirls into a vortex as the voice repeats its hungry demand. Looks like something new is on the menu. A brilliant blue light shines from Apollo's eye, a sign of the power awakening within. The monster's grip tightens, its immense pressure threatening to crush him completely. But the creature's eye widens in shock as it feels a new power surge from its victim. It recoils in pain, dropping Apollo from its grasp as he plummets toward the ground. But as he falls, his eyes glow with an eerie light, his hand radiating a rainbow of energy. He unleashes a massive blast of blue magic, a desperate counterattack from mid-air. The voice returns, urging him to consume everything as a dark power gathers in his hand. A pillar of pure energy erupts from him, engulfing the winged beast in a blinding flash. Guess the kid decided to skip the appetizer and go straight for the main course. The guards can only stare in disbelief, their minds struggling to comprehend the scene. Even Lady Astria is left speechless, watching the boy she underestimated unleash his true potential. Lady Astria can only whisper his name, her composure completely shattered. A torrent of raw, untamed energy erupts from Apollo's body. His face is twisted into a feral grin, a terrifying new side to our boy. He slams into the beast, a living missile of pure destructive force. He screams, completely consumed by the dark power now coursing through him. The monster's flesh is torn away, devoured by the swirling black and blue energy. Astria and her guards can only watch, completely horrified by the brutal display. The creature is systematically erased, its body disintegrating under the relentless assault. Its skeletal jaw is all that remains, a final silent scream against the inevitable. The beast is utterly annihilated, leaving nothing but a fading echo of light. Well, that's one way to solve a pest problem. Luna can only watch through her fingers, horrified by the raw power on display. The dust settles as a single foot touches the ground, still radiating a faint blue light. Apollo stands victorious, but something is different. He looks older, taller. His eyes are cold, his expression distant, a stranger wearing a familiar face. Luna calls out his name, her voice a mix of relief and utter confusion. She points out the sudden changes, asking what happened to him. Looks like he hit a growth spurt mid-battle. But her fear gives way to relief as she throws her arms around him, glad he's alive. Unseen by her, strange blue markings flicker across Apollo's face. Lady Astria analyzes the scene, trying to understand the magic he just used. She notes the beast's strange fate, its body now a petrified husk. Lady Astria formally thanks Apollo for risking his life to protect her. But Apollo is distracted by his own hand, now sparking with a strange rainbow-colored energy. He admits this bizarre transformation is as new to him as it is to everyone else. Suddenly, a massive wave of power erupts from his body, sending them all flying. He stares in horror as his magic activates completely on its own. The untamed energy surges from his fingertips, far beyond his control. The blast sends Luna tumbling as Apollo is thrown into the air by the sheer force. But his fear is replaced by a confident smirk as he feels a new kind of power. Looks like someone got a system update. The power rages around him and he screams, unable to contain the overwhelming force. The energy finally dissipates, leaving him kneeling and exhausted on the scorched earth. Luna peeks from behind a guard's shield, demanding to know what's going on. Apollo can only grit his teeth, admitting he has no control over this new power. His entire hand becomes a conduit, each finger glowing with a different colored light. The legendary Sword of 10 Handbreaths finally reveals its name. And with it comes a new technique, the Gathering Clouds of Heaven. A massive pillar of green energy erupts, tearing through the estate grounds. Lady Astria and her entourage can only watch in shock as the chaos unfolds. Luna screams at him to do something, which is not exactly helpful right now. He tries to shield himself, insisting that he's doing his best to stop it. But he's powerless, thrown about by the very magic he just unlocked. Luna shouts from the sidelines, urging him to just pull the power back in. Her simple words cut through the chaos, and a realization dawns on Apollo's face. With a confident smirk, he finally gets a handle on the raging, multicolored energy. The torrent of magic finally subsides, leaving him kneeling on the ruined earth. He collapses backward, completely spent from the overwhelming display of power. Luna and Lady Astria rush to his side, their faces etched with concern. Even exhausted, his first thoughts are for them, asking if they're unharmed. He apologizes for the danger, but Luna insists he has nothing to be sorry for. Lady Astria agrees with a gentle smile, reminding him that he was their protector. Luna helps him up, thanking him again for defeating the beast and saving them all. He offers a tired but genuine smile, his relief palpable. Lady Astria watches him, her expression softening with a newfound admiration. Her eyes sparkle, a silent acknowledgement of the power she just witnessed. The three of them stand together on the ruined grounds under a starry sky. Night falls over the grand estate, the chaos of the battle finally over. Luna checks on him again, but he insists he's fine despite his ragged state. He tries to change the subject, a small smile playing on his lips. But his train of thought is derailed by a very loud growl from Luna's stomach. She strikes a pose, announcing that all that monster slaying has made her hungry. Priorities, people. Lady Astria finally snaps out of her daze, apologizing for forgetting her duties as a host. With a snap of her fingers, she promises to have everything prepared right away. And just like that, her head maid announces that the meal is ready. Luna is shocked by the speed, but the maid explains she's always prepared. Astria admits there's a very specific reason for her staff's constant readiness. She confesses with a bashful grin that she's quite the heavy eater herself. The three of them share a laugh, all admitting they're completely famished. But their light-hearted moment is interrupted by the sound of approaching hooves. Apollo turns, sensing the urgency as the girls continue to chat happily. A heavily armored knight on horseback charges toward them at full speed. Well, so much for dinner. He reins his horse to a sudden stop, his imposing figure looming over them. The knight dismounts in a single fluid motion, his cape billowing behind him. His armored boot lands heavily on the ground, a sign of his urgent arrival. He kneels before Astria, introducing himself as Instructor Bernard and apologizing for his tardiness. Lady Astria explains she summoned him here specifically to meet them. His gaze is stern and focused, awaiting his lady's command. But Luna's eyes fixate on a small detail, the gem on his helmet. Her mind flashes back to the rolling hills of their childhood village. She remembers a time when a powerful lord paid them a visit long ago. A young Apollo and Luna peeked out from the crowd, full of curiosity. And she recalls that the lord's hat was adorned with the very same gems. Looks like someone's past is catching up with them. Apollo recalls that the most powerful lord in his region wore 3 such gems. Luna points out that this new knight, Bernard, has 2 gems on his own helmet. She excitedly concludes that he must be a very important person as well. Apollo wonders just who Astria is to have such a powerful man kneeling before her. Bernard's eye flashes with a keen light as he finally looks up. His gaze lands on Apollo, asking if this is the young man he was summoned for. Lady Astria confirms, describing Apollo as a person of extraordinary talent. Intrigued, Bernard rises to his feet, ready to see this talent for himself. He formally introduces himself, offering a respectful greeting to Lord Apollo. But his inner thoughts are less than impressed, seeing only a decent-looking kid. He internally concludes she's trying to use her influence to promote her lover. Bernard asks Lady Astria for permission to test Apollo's skills, which she grants. He turns to Apollo, demanding to know what kind of magic he specializes in. Apollo hesitates, struggling to explain the unique and uncontrollable nature of his power. The 2 men face off on the scorched earth, ready for a demonstration. Bernard cuts him off, summoning a golden magic circle to see for himself. He erects a massive barrier, challenging Apollo to hit it with his best shot. The instructor stands confidently behind his shield, waiting for the attack. He thinks to himself that he's only doing this as a favor to Lady Astria. Guess he's not expecting much. With a condescending glare, he formally invites Lord Apollo to begin the test. Luna watches from the sidelines, a sudden sense of unease washing over her. But she quickly becomes his cheerleader, urging Apollo to go all out. He smiles, ready to show her the incredible new power he's just unlocked. With a surge of energy, he summons the legendary Sword of 10 Hand Breaths. A massive blade of pure blue light forms, crackling with destructive potential. Bernard's condescending smirk vanishes, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. The energy sword slams into his golden barrier with overwhelming force. The instructor cries out, his shield groaning under the unexpected pressure. Guess he's regretting that whole, hit me with your best shot thing. Apollo's attack continues to pour on, a relentless torrent of raw magic. Bernard grits his teeth, realizing his formidable barrier is about to shatter. The golden barrier cracks under the sheer force of the assault. With a final, deafening crash, the shield shatters into a million pieces. But Apollo realizes his power is too much, trying to pull back the attack. He struggles to contain the rainbow energy now raging in his hand. Bernard is thrown to the ground, staring up in utter disbelief. The proud instructor can only whisper, his confidence completely shattered. The blast has carved a massive trench straight through the estate grounds. It tore through the outer wall, a testament to his incredible power. So much for property values. Apollo stands over the defeated knight, the victor of this little test. And Luna can only look on, her face beaming with absolute pride. Lady Astria watches the aftermath, a smug, satisfied smile on her face. Bernard begins to recount the proud history of his lineage, the House of Wisteria. His ancestor, Anton Wisteria, founded a legendary school for defensive magic. For years, Anton served as the personal guardian of the Emperor himself. After the Emperor's passing, he returned to his homeland to establish an academy. He developed a unique and systematic approach to the magic he had created. The Wisteria name became a celebrated success story, known throughout the land. And all of that history culminated in a single, ultimate defensive spell. The indestructible magic barrier, a technique that was never once broken. Or at least, that's how the legend was supposed to go. Awkward. Bernard holds the official rank of a second-class wizard, a title of considerable respect. He is a master of the Wisteria family's ultimate defensive technique. And yet, his supposedly indestructible barrier was utterly annihilated. The proud instructor can only stare, his mind refusing to process the reality of his defeat. He sits humbled on the ground, staring down the massive trench Apollo's power just created. The knight's face is a mask of disbelief, his pride completely shattered. Lady Astria looks down on him, her expression smug and utterly satisfied. Her knowing smile says it all. This was exactly the outcome she expected. Her guards can only stare at the gaping hole in the estate wall, a testament to the boy's power. Bernard finally asks who this boy is, his condescending tone replaced by pure awe. Guess he's not just her lover after all. Lady Astria covers her mouth, feigning a delicate sense of surprise. She playfully admits she's still getting used to this level of raw power. Bernard can only stare in silence, his world completely upended. He stands beside his lady, the gap in their understanding now a massive chasm. The knight struggles to decipher her intentions, realizing he's just a piece in her game. But Luna cuts through the tension, gushing about how incredible Apollo was. She celebrates his victory, amazed he took down such a high-ranking knight. He just smiles, glad his power didn't go too out of control this time. Bernard finally concedes, admitting to Astria that the boy has promise. The proud instructor clenches his fist, his defeat igniting a new fire within him. Bernard bows, praising her incredible ability to find a diamond in the rough. But she brushes it off as pure luck, thanks to the district mayor's incompetence. The knight listens in silence, her words clearly striking a chord. Her comment brings to mind the corruption of officials who abuse their power. He seems to finally understand the political game she's playing. Meanwhile, the headmaid leads the heroes away, as Luna dreams of their promised meal. Astria turns back to Bernard, awaiting his final official assessment. He agrees to fast-track the official procedure for Apollo's recruitment. She feigns ignorance, asking him to clarify exactly what he means. He declares his intent to promote Apollo to rank 4, a pretty nice raise for one day's work. Bernard still struggles to believe what he saw, asking if the boy is truly that powerful. As they walk away, Luna gushes over his new technique, completely starstruck. But Lady Astria is lost in thought, her mind already several steps ahead. Bernard waits for her decision, completely unaware of the curveball she's about to throw. A sharp glint in her eye reveals a new, unexpected plan is forming. She suggests starting Apollo at rank 9, the absolute bottom of the ladder. The knight is completely floored by the sudden, baffling change of plans. He questions her decision, but she assures him it's perfectly fine. Talk about mixed signals. Bernard demands to know why she'd give him the lowest possible rank. He reminds her of her goal to help him, but she just offers another one of her smug, knowing smiles. She explains it would be a waste to harm someone with his incredible potential. The knight is confused by her choice of words as they ride away from the estate. She clarifies that if he's known to be her recommendation, it would ruin his reputation. Being seen as her favorite would only undermine his true worth in the eyes of others. Bernard finally understands, admitting that political rivals would use that against him. She asks if he finally sees the bigger picture she's painting for Apollo's future. The knight realizes her plan. Apollo must start at the bottom to prove himself without question. He feels ashamed of his earlier misjudgment and offers to make amends for his short-sightedness. He proposes to personally train Apollo, guiding him from the lowest rank to the highest. A pretty sweet deal for a guy who just blew up your shield. And with a single word, Lady Astria agrees to his offer. She orders him to train Apollo until his skills are completely beyond question. And she clarifies that this intensive training is for both of her new guests. With a triumphant fist pump, she rides off as Bernard accepts his new mission. Meanwhile, in the eastern annex of the Grand Mansion, our heroes settle in. Or rather, they're recovering from a massive food coma after their promised meal. Apollo looks more relaxed than we've ever seen him, a rare moment of peace. But their host isn't done yet, arriving with maids to offer them after-dinner tea. The two maids stand by, their expressions perfectly neutral and professional. But something about them seems to catch Apollo's attention, a flicker of unease. The moment passes as he thanks her, and she plays the part of the perfect, gracious host. Luna breaks the comfortable silence, turning to their host with a question. She fidgets nervously, building up to the important inquiry. She finally asks about the official results of his test with Bernard. Lady Astria feigns forgetfulness, a knowing smile on her face. She announces that Apollo is now officially a rank 9 mage. Luna absolutely erupts with joy, celebrating his official new title. She tackles him in a hug, as Astria explains the paperwork is on its way. Once he's registered, he'll be able to take on official missions. But before that, she says they need to arrange a residence and slaves for him. Wait, what? The maid beside her offers a polite, professional smile at the suggestion. The word slaves echoes in his mind as the truth of the situation hits him. Lady Astria confirms it. The two maids are his, a welcome gift he definitely didn't ask for. Luna notices his sudden change in mood, asking what's wrong. He can't hide his discomfort, admitting he doesn't believe in using slaves. Astria calmly agrees, noting that casual slave ownership is frowned upon. She then asks the maids to show him the seals on their collars. She explains the system. Each new master adds their seal, a history of ownership. Luna sips her tea, concluding that multiple seals are a sign of resourcefulness. It's a way of showing you can care for those who have been rejected by others. He looks at the maid with new understanding, the offer of tea now carrying more weight. He frames it in his mind as helping people who are going through a hard time. One of the maids is stunned, unsure how to react to his unexpected kindness. The other realizes he's not seeking status, but genuinely wants to help them. Apollo notices their shocked expressions, asking if he said something strange. But her surprise melts into a blush as she realizes he's truly a kind person. He's a bit flustered by the praise, unused to such a warm reception. The four of them share a quiet moment, settling into their new arrangement. A new day dawns over the grand estate, bright and full of promise. Luna is already exploring their new home with boundless, cheerful energy. She greets the morning with a happy wave, adjusting to this lifestyle a little too easily. One of the maids, a girl with horns and a tail, looks on in complete awe. Luna's jaw drops as she sees a massive line of demi-human girls in maid outfits. Astria explains that these are unassigned slaves she's been sheltering. Luna greets her host, who returns the pleasantry with a calm smile. The purpose of this gathering is clear. They're here to choose staff for Apollo. Just then, Apollo makes his appearance, greeting Luna with a cheerful wave. Luna is immediately captivated by his brand new stylish combat attire. He shows off his new Western-style outfit as Luna gushes over how cool he looks. But the head maid silently questions why her lady is giving him such expensive gifts. Astria presents the candidates, telling Apollo to make his choice. No pressure, it's just picking your new staff. Apollo is still hesitant, questioning the idea of taking on Astria's staff. But Luna cuts in, her expression suddenly serious and concerned. She asks if giving him her slaves will make Astria look like a failed master. Astria just smiles, assuring them her family's reputation is completely untouchable. Apollo and Luna are still unsure, trying to grasp the complex social rules. The head maid begins to explain the intricate political game at play. Among high-ranking nobles, slaves are sometimes traded to forge connections. It's a gesture of goodwill, a way to build a deeper, more personal partnership. While a political marriage is a true alliance, this is considered a quasi-alliance. Astria confirms it's a relationship beyond friends, a political move in its own right. So this isn't just a gift, it's a statement. With the political lesson over, Astria formally asks Apollo to choose his new staff. He and Luna agree that since it's a gesture of alliance, they must accept. The head maid watches the exchange, her expression hardening with disapproval. She internally fumes, believing this young man doesn't grasp his incredible luck. He's being favored by Lady Astria, a privilege he seems to take for granted. But Apollo is genuinely stumped, wondering how he's supposed to make such a choice. Luna chimes in with a very specific suggestion for his selection criteria. As Apollo reels in shock, she cheerfully asks the maids for a demonstration. Well, that's one way to conduct an interview. Two of the girls reluctantly comply as Luna continues her unique inspection. Even the ever-composed Lady Astria is left completely speechless by the turn of events. At Luna's command, one of the maids reluctantly lifts her skirt for inspection. The horned girl blushes furiously, complying with the most unusual job interview ever. Another maid with a feline tail follows suit, the bizarre demonstration continuing. A third girl with a demonic tail joins the lineup, much to everyone's confusion. Apollo is completely mortified, trying to put a stop to this ridiculous display. But Luna calmly explains her logic. A strong lower body is crucial for hard work. You know, she has a point. She reminds Apollo of his own past, back when he spent his days swinging a hammer. His mind flashes back to the physical toll of being a blacksmith, and her words click into place. With a sudden terrifying clarity, he agrees that her criteria are sound. The headmaid is not amused. Now fully on board, Apollo agrees to help with the thorough examination of the candidates. The headmaid can only sigh, her professional composure finally cracking. Luna gets up close, conducting a very thorough hands-on inspection. Apollo joins in, offering his own expert analysis of the candidates' qualifications. The maids endure the bizarre examination, their faces a mix of confusion and embarrassment. The horned girl is deemed to have a good structure for strenuous work. But the inspection isn't just visual, a physical test is also required. The girl flinches in surprise as Luna declares her flexibility to be excellent. This is the weirdest job interview ever. Apollo turns to Luna, asking if they've found their perfect candidate. The headmaid's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. But Lady Astria can barely contain her laughter at the ridiculous scene. The headmaid panics, thinking her lady is upset by the ridiculous display. But Apollo is lost in thought, taking this selection process very seriously. Luna turns her attention to another candidate, her focus unwavering. She asks for his expert opinion on the next girl in line. Apollo admits he's no expert on the subject, but he does have a theory. He explains his unique understanding of gluteal muscle development. He then points to a specific example to illustrate his point. The chosen maid flushes with embarrassment under his expert scrutiny. Even Lady Astria joins in, pointing out the specific lines he mentioned. The headmaid can only watch in horror as her lady joins the chaos. Luna pops in from the side, excitedly confirming the existence of the line. She explains her theory, comparing it to how workers train to survive the winter. It's a constant cycle of hard labor, preparing in spring to endure the cold. She concludes that slaves accustomed to this work develop these specific features. Apollo listens with a serious expression, completely engrossed in her logic. It's a mark of a lifetime of hard work, a sign of a true laborer. And with a look of dawning comprehension, Apollo is completely sold on the idea. Luna turns to their host, asking if she uses the same unique hiring practices. Astria confirms it, adding that her own selection method is a bit different. She calls for her headmaid, Themis, and orders her to bring an hourglass. Themis confirms the order as Apollo and Luna wonder what an hourglass has to do with anything. The headmaid quickly returns, presenting a case of beautifully crafted hourglasses. Astria explains these are magical tools, designed to find a person with specific qualities. Our heroes are still confused, wondering how a simple hourglass can be a magical tool. Lady Astria holds one up, ready to demonstrate her unique selection method. She focuses her thoughts, wishing for someone who can satisfy her thirst for knowledge. By simply holding the tool and focusing on a desire, its magic is activated. A brilliant aura surrounds her, the magical device responding to her will. The once empty hourglass is now filled with sand, much to Luna's amazement. She then presents the activated hourglass to one of the smaller maids in the lineup. Okay, this is getting weirder than the last test. Astria passes the magical hourglass to the small, white-haired maid. The moment she touches it, the hourglass begins to glow with a brilliant light. Sand begins to pour through the device at an incredible, mesmerizing speed. But just as quickly as it started, the flow of sand comes to a sudden halt. Astria turns to Themis, who explains the hourglass's true function. The amount of sand that fell represents a mere 10% match to Astria's wish. Luna puts it bluntly. The girl is not the intellectual companion Astria was looking for. Guess it's back to the weird leg inspection method. Apollo examines one of the tools, wondering about the nature of its magic. Astria explains it's a special tool, usable even by those with no magical ability. The idea of a magical item for non-magic users seems to strike a chord with him. Astria explains that in this world, no one is truly without magical power. She clarifies that even the smallest spark is enough to activate the tool. Luna, ever the enthusiast, eagerly pushes Apollo to take his turn. She places the magical device into his hands, her excitement contagious. The moment he touches it, a massive surge of blue energy erupts from his body. But despite the impressive light show, the hourglass remains completely empty. He concludes the device must be defective, much to Astria's surprise. She calmly offers him another one, suggesting he try again. But the result is the same, leaving Apollo staring in stunned silence. Astria hands the inert hourglass to Themis, quietly asking her to investigate it later. Apollo's mind races as he realizes the truth. His magical power is actually zero. A wave of panic hits him, wondering what will happen if Astria discovers his secret. The magical tool remains stubbornly empty, a silent testament to his strange condition. Even Lady Astria is perplexed, admitting that this result is highly unusual. He grips the device, sweat beading on his brow as he tries to will it to work. Luna can only stare in confusion, pointing out that it's not reacting at all. His mind flashes back to a painful memory, a voice reminding him that his power was always empty. He grits his teeth, deciding there's no point in hiding the truth any longer. He resolves to be honest and tell her everything about his unique condition. But Astria is already on a different track, asking if the defective tools are still under warranty. Guest customer service is her first priority. He takes a deep breath, ready to confess the truth to Lady Astria. Luna senses his sudden seriousness, her expression filled with concern. He struggles with the words, the secret he's held for so long. He finally admits it, telling her he has no innate magical power. The headmaid's eyes widen, her suspicion seemingly confirmed. Luna is left speechless, unable to process his shocking confession. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, a moment of tense silence. But Astria just smiles, praising him for his unexpected kindness. Well, that's one way to react to a bombshell. Apollo is completely baffled by her bizarre, gentle response. She explains that with his power, a reading of 0 is obviously impossible. Luna snaps him out of it, asking what he could possibly mean by that confession. He hesitates, struggling to find the words to explain the impossible truth. But Astria smoothly changes the subject, apologizing for the faulty magical tools. Luna, easily distracted, asks if the hourglass can truly find a perfect match. Astria admits with a playful smile that she rarely uses them herself. She calls it a personal indulgence, a shortcut she prefers not to take. Apollo is still trying to wrap his head around her complex reasoning. She explains her preference for judging people with her own eyes, not through magic. He asks if she truly finds enjoyment in such a difficult, uncertain process. With a knowing smirk, she confirms that she does, hinting that her indulgence led her straight to him. Apollo seems confused as she mentions meeting someone amazing. He offers a kind smile, happy for her supposed good fortune. Astria closes her eyes, a gentle smile playing on her lips. She clarifies that the amazing person she found was him. But their quiet moment is interrupted by a tremor shaking the estate. A massive, dark vortex of energy swirls ominously in the sky above. Well, so much for a quiet morning. Inside, Luna is happily entertaining her new maid friends. But a sudden noise startles them, their cheerful conversation cut short. Apollo is already on his feet, sensing the imminent danger. The sound of urgent footsteps echoes through the halls as they rush to respond. Apollo senses the unrest, wondering about the sudden panic in the air. He cautiously makes his way through the halls, trying to find the source of the commotion. He joins the frantic rush of servants, demanding to know what's happening. He stops at a window, realizing the disturbance isn't just inside. A massive storm is brewing. Luna calls out to him, beckoning him to join her and Lady Astria. She explains the chaos is due to an approaching magical power storm. It's a natural phenomenon that disrupts all magic, making spellcasting impossible. With their powers nullified, the staff must rely on magical tools for defense. Looks like it's time to break out the emergency kit. Lady Astria apologizes for the fuss as they watch the preparations unfold. But a thought crosses Apollo's mind, a time when no one can use magic. His only thought is to protect Luna as he summons the Sword of 10 Handbreaths. Luna watches in confusion as a blade of pure pink energy forms in his hand. He quickly dismisses the power, explaining he was just testing his limits. But Lady Astria can only cry out his name, her face a mask of utter shock. Luna realizes the truth. He just used magic in a magic-nullifying storm. The impossible act leaves Astria completely stunned, her mind reeling. In a sudden move, she grabs his hand, desperate for confirmation. Her eyes lock onto his, a wild, unbelievable theory forming in her mind. Outside, the magical storm continues to rage, a silent witness to the impossible. Luna calls out his name, her voice laced with concern over the sudden tension. Apollo notices Luna's hesitation, asking what's on her mind. She observes that his power feels even stronger now, prompting Astria to ask for another demonstration. He obliges, summoning the brilliant pink energy to his hand once more. Luna is amazed by its rapid growth, while Astria notes its sharper, more vibrant form. A new term enters his mind, the power of reason, a dark and ominous force. It's linked to a memory of a sinister man with glowing eyes and a red cloak. The group realizes this power is something entirely different, something that grows, a power that remains completely unaffected by the magic-nullifying storm. But Luna's attention is drawn outside, hearing sounds beyond the raging weather. Looks like they have uninvited guests. Astria's expression hardens, confirming that the visitors she expected have finally arrived. Just as she predicted, A massive explosion rocks the estate grounds. The attackers are armed with crude weapons, ready for a brutal fight. Astria calls them hyenas, scavengers who prey on the weak. They are disaster opportunists, striking when the storm renders mages helpless. Her knights are holding the line for now, but they're fighting a losing battle. Luna turns to Apollo, urging him to unleash his power and end this. She reminds him that he's their only hope in the magic nullifying storm. He agrees, his resolve hardening as he thinks of protecting Luna. He turns to Lady Astria, formally asking for permission to join the fray. With a calm smile, she not only agrees but encourages him to do his worst. Guess the welcome party is over. Astria's mind races, trying to understand how he can use magic in the storm. Luna sends him off with a cheerful pat, completely confident in his abilities. But Astria watches with keen interest, determined to uncover the secret of his power. Outside, the battle rages as the estate guards clash with the brutish invaders. The knights try to hold their ground, but fear is clearly setting in. The attackers mock them, knowing the storm has rendered their magic useless. They swarm the gates, convinced the powerless mages are easy prey. This is what you call a hostile takeover. The fight descends into a brutal melee, the knights overwhelmed by sheer numbers. One by one, the defenders fall, their life force seemingly draining away. But a lone figure appears in the gateway, radiating an impossible blue light. One of the invaders pauses mid-brawl, sensing a new presence in the chaos. He scoffs at the sight of Apollo, dismissing the boy as no threat at all. The brute charges forward, only to be sent flying by a sudden blast of multicolored energy. Apollo stands alone, a silent storm of power that has already taken down several men. He summons his legendary blade, the heavenly sword of gathering clouds. The invaders are stunned, questioning how he can possibly use magic in the storm. But their greed outweighs their fear as they convince themselves it's all a bluff. With a determined glare, Apollo unleashes a concentrated blast of power. Famous last words, gentlemen. The energy beam rips through their ranks, sending bodies flying through the air. He follows up with a devastating kick, cutting down another foe with effortless grace. He moves like a blur, his fists wreathed in blue energy as he pummels another attacker. One of the invaders pulls out a firearm, unloading a volley of shots in desperation. But Apollo is one step ahead, using another man as a living shield against the attack. With a powerful shove, he sends the human shield flying through the air. He then unleashes another devastating wave of pure energy from his hands. The blast rips through the courtyard, scattering the invaders like bowling pins. With his energy sword in hand, he stands ready for the next wave of attackers. A much larger brute decides to get creative, hoisting a massive barrel over his head. Someone's been playing too much Donkey Kong. He hurls the makeshift projectile, but Apollo dodges it with contemptuous ease. But he's forced onto the defensive, blocking a powerful blow with his sword. The clash of steel and magic erupts in a massive, fiery explosion. He forms a bow of pure energy, taking down another attacker at close range. Surrounded, he unleashes another blast, his power a beacon in the chaos. But the invaders are relentless. A tidal wave of bodies flooding the gate. Apollo answers with a blinding flash, sending the entire horde flying back. With a furious battle cry, he channels his energy into a devastating uppercut. A pillar of blue light tears through the courtyard, a one-man apocalypse. The remaining thugs can only stare, wondering how one man can be this powerful. He spins through the air, a whirlwind of destruction with a hammer and blade. With a confident smirk, he challenges the survivors, asking who's next. With the battle over, Luna and Astria rush across the corpse-strewn courtyard. Luna calls out his name, her voice cutting through the silence of the aftermath. She leaps into his arms, praising his incredible and cool display of power. But Lady Astria watches from afar, her mind still reeling from the impossible feat. He used magic in a nullifying storm and single-handedly routed the invaders. His power was absolute, a whirlwind of destruction that left no room for doubt. The survivors flee in terror, their greed finally overshadowed by sheer panic. One of the rescued knights thanks him, his voice filled with awe and gratitude. A fragile peace settles over the grand estate as the storm begins to subside. But Astria interrupts the moment, cryptically excusing herself for an important task. Guess the debriefing can wait. Apollo agrees with a simple smile, ready to help with the cleanup. Luna rallies the group, and they rush off to tend to the wounded soldiers. But inside the grand mansion, Lady Astria's work is just beginning. She confers with an attendant, her mind already on the next political move. She asks about the jurisdiction of a nearby territory, a place called Cheese Eyes. The attendant confirms it's under the watch of Governor Spica and a man named Austin. Astria immediately begins to pen a letter, demanding a horse be prepared at once. She acknowledges that sending a messenger into the raging storm is incredibly dangerous, but she makes it clear that the risk is necessary. This message cannot wait. Guess someone's getting hazard pay. The attendant bows, understanding the gravity and urgency of her command. The magical storm continues to rage, a tempest of raw, untamed energy. Through the chaos, a lone messenger rides, braving the impossible weather for his lady. His horse gallops at a desperate pace, a blur against the storm-racked landscape. He finally reaches his destination, Pella, the capital city of the prefecture. He arrives at Admiral Spica's headquarters, announcing his urgent message from Lady Astria. A guard on duty is stunned to see a messenger arrive in such dangerous conditions. The rider collapses from exhaustion, his mission nearly complete. Talk about a rough commute. With his last ounce of strength, he hands over the letter, marked with an official seal. The message is quickly carried inside a grand hall to a man of high authority. Admiral Spica reads the urgent dispatch, his expression grim and completely focused. The letter reaches its destination, Admiral Spica, Master of the Scarlet Knights. He passes the dispatch to one of his men, who reads it with a puzzled expression. The knight is stunned by the request. A rank 9 mage is being sent to Cheese Eyes City. Admiral Spica confirms the location, a place infamous for its endless magical reign. It's a remote region plagued by magical power storms for more than a third of the year. The constant storms make magic unreliable, leaving the land to be ruled by monsters. These ungovernable, monster-infested zones are known as Cheese Eyes. Seriously, who came up with that name? Spica explains that one such area falls under his command, a land of perpetual storms. The knight can't believe it, questioning if they'd really send a rookie there. He wonders if this is some kind of punishment from Lady Astria for an unknown offense. But Admiral Spica dismisses the idea, knowing Lady Astria doesn't operate on petty revenge. He concludes this is the opposite of punishment. It's blatant favoritism for someone she fancies. As the storm clouds gather over the capital, the pieces of her plan click into place. He realizes she's sending the one person who can use magic in a storm to a land defined by them. His subordinate, however, is still struggling to grasp the logic behind the move. Spica points out the urgency. She sent a physical messenger through the storm, not a magical one. A mission so vital she was willing to let the rider die of exhaustion to see it through. And with that, the knight finally understands the weight of her command. Meanwhile, under a brilliant sun, a new day dawns over a grand walled academy. This is the Wisteria family's renowned school of magic, where a new chapter is set to begin. Inside the academy, a woman in charge reviews the official letter of appointment. The knight confirms the mission is for a rank 9 mage named Apollo. She calmly processes the information, her expression completely unreadable. The knight then delivers a personal message from the region's governor. Her lips curl into a faint, unimpressed smile. She's clearly not easily swayed. He explains the governor is busy dealing with an active skeleton dragon. The woman's eyes widen slightly, realizing the annual threat has returned. The legend speaks of an immortal evil dragon, a beast of unknown origin, a creature of immense power with glowing red eyes that promise destruction. Long ago it was sealed away, but the seal weakens once every year. Looks like Apollo's first mission is a doozy. The beast's immense tail smashes through the earth, a force of pure destruction. Its skeletal form rises, a glowing core of malevolent energy pulsing in its chest. During this time, the governor must personally confront the ancient threat. She stands against the beast as it unleashes a torrent of destructive energy. Her sole duty is to reinforce the seal that holds this ancient evil at bay. She fights back with incredible power, demanding the beast's submission. The woman at the academy calmly accepts the report, sending her regards to the governor. And so, under a clear blue sky, a new day begins at the Wisteria Academy. The academy's headmistress takes a stroll through the grounds, her demeanor calm and composed. Guess she's not too worried about the annual dragon problem. Meanwhile, Apollo is already training, unaware of the legendary beast he's about to meet. An attendant greets Lady Astria and Luna, who seems to be enjoying the fresh air. But Apollo is struggling, completely out of breath from his training session. He admits that outside of the storm, he can't seem to control his magic properly. Luna offers a theory. Perhaps his power works best during a magical storm. Astria considers the idea, a knowing smile spreading across her face. Luna leans in, eager to hear the implications of her wild hypothesis. Astria declares that if it's true, it means Apollo is someone truly special. Luna is overjoyed, celebrating the high praise with a very flustered Apollo. Guess he's not used to positive reinforcement. And because of this unique talent, Astria has a very specific mission for him. She hands him a sealed letter, his first official assignment as a rank 9 mage. She reveals his destination, a remote region known as Delos. Luna erupts with joy, thrilled that he's finally getting a real mission. Astria explains that Delos is a land plagued by frequent magical power storms. His mission, eliminate the monsters and rule the land. Simple, straightforward, and totally not a suicide mission for a rookie. She believes this is the perfect stage for him to truly unleash his unique abilities. Luna urges him to accept the challenge, and he agrees without hesitation. The trio shares a final moment before embarking on this new chapter. As the sun sets, their time at the Grand Estate comes to an end. A carriage awaits, and the entire staff lines up to see them off in style. A frantic attendant rushes to meet them, and Astria simply tells him she's counting on him. The attendant sees them off as Lady Astria gestures towards the carriage. But the moment Apollo steps inside, his jaw hits the floor. The carriage interior is a massive, opulent room, far bigger on the inside. Luna is just as baffled, wondering how a wagon can contain a mansion. Astria simply smiles, chalking it all up to the wonders of magic. Outside, the driver cracks the reins, and their journey officially begins. The entire staff watches as the carriage departs from the Grand Estate. Their convoy passes through the main gate, leaving the wisteria grounds behind. They travel out into a vast world, leaving the safety of the city walls. Looks like the luxury travel package includes a scenic dragon flyby. The carriage makes its way through the picturesque countryside toward Delos. As they travel, the mystery of the massive carriage interior is finally explained. It's all thanks to space-shifting magic, which is broken down into 3 levels. The beginner stage is simple illusion, creating the mere impression of a larger space. At the intermediate level, a mage can actually expand space, but only temporarily. This stage allows for both expansion and reduction, a useful but limited skill. But the true masters can create a stable, limitless space using a hideout spell. The man responsible is Mikami Sushi, a powerful space mage in Astria's employ. Luna peeks out the window, the rumbling of the wheels confirming their impossible reality. She's completely amazed by the feat, her mind still trying to process the magic. She immediately turns to Apollo, asking if he can pull off a similar trick. No pressure, dude. Luna gives an enthusiastic, if not entirely accurate, demonstration of space magic. Astria seems doubtful, but Luna insists he's already performed a similar feat. He tries to clarify, asking if she means the power he used to protect her. The memory of him protecting her sends Luna into a flustered, happy mess. She's completely overcome with emotion, reliving the moment he came to her rescue. In her mind's eye, he's a legendary hero wielding the sword of 10 handbreadths. She excitedly explains how he could expand that butterfly-shaped energy shield. Her words spark an idea, and he stares at his hand in sudden comprehension. He imagines how he could have used that power during the invasion to block multiple foes. He smiles softly, realizing it would have made protecting Luna that much easier. Luna completely short-circuits, his words echoing in her head like a love song. As she melts into a puddle on the floor, Apollo can only stare in utter confusion. But Astria is impressed, admitting Luna's idea is something even she hadn't considered. Apollo finally turns to Luna, asking why she's suddenly acting so strange. She tries to play it cool, but her blushing face and frantic pointing say otherwise. He points out her obvious blush as she continues her flustered denial. Someone's not great at hiding their feelings. But Lady Astria cuts in, a new topic on her mind. She explains the carriage's space magic needs a reset and invites them to observe. Apollo agrees, and Luna realizes this is another one of Astria's lessons in disguise. A quiet laugh escapes her, grateful for their host's subtle guidance. The carriage rumbles to a halt on the open road. Under the afternoon sun, the driver disembarks to begin the reset process. Inside, Astria gives the order to Mikami, the master of this magical space. He unleashes a wave of green energy, recasting the complex hideout spell. The room transforms into an even grander hall, much to their amazement. And just like that, the staff rushes in to prepare their next meal. Talk about 5-star travel. A magnificent feast is laid out before them, a testament to Astria's wealth. Luna is absolutely thrilled, while Apollo is surprised by the lavish spread. Astria gives Luna a gentle push, encouraging them to enjoy the journey. But her mind is elsewhere, eagerly awaiting the next display of Apollo's unique power. Luna inhales her food, her cheeks puffed out in pure, unadulterated delight. She's in a state of absolute bliss, declaring the meal to be a culinary masterpiece. She urges Apollo to try everything, and he happily agrees, digging into the feast. As the carriage rumbles through the night, Luna marvels at their impossible situation. She points out that they're just in a simple wagon, traveling through the wilderness. And yet they're enjoying a 5-star banquet that defies all logic. She turns to Apollo for confirmation, who can only agree with a mouthful of food. Astria, however, seems less enthused by the idea of living permanently on the road. She reveals her one weakness, a deep, profound hatred for insects. Guess even nobles have their limits. Apollo suddenly understands that some threats, like bugs, are a universal problem, magic or no magic. Inside the carriage, a magical globe displays the weather patterns of the world. An attendant reports to Lady Astria, his tone urgent and serious. The forecast is in, a massive magical power storm is brewing right over their destination. Astria calmly decides they will simply wait for the storm to pass before proceeding. Meanwhile, Luna and Apollo share a light-hearted moment, completely unaware of the change in plans. But outside, the guards on patrol look to the horizon with growing unease. The convoy has stopped, the distant flashes of lightning revealing the approaching tempest. Luna finally connects the dots, realizing their destination is a land of constant storms. Astria sips her tea, confirming her suspicion and hinting at the danger of going forward. Luna panics, realizing the storm would nullify the carriage's magic, crushing them all inside. Well, that's one way to ruin a road trip. Astria confirms the plan. They will make camp here until the storm subsides. From the comfort of their magical carriage, Luna and Apollo watch the guards outside. Apollo stares out at the horizon, his gaze fixed on the approaching tempest. The storm rumbles in the distance, a dark promise of raw, untamed power. The convoy settles in for the night, a small pocket of calm before the chaos. But Luna approaches their host, needing to confirm one very important detail. She asks if they are, in fact, still inside the impossibly large wagon. Astria reveals a luxurious, fully functional bathroom, because roughing it is for peasants. With a knowing smile, she invites Luna to join her for a bath. Luna's response is immediate and ecstatic, eagerly accepting the generous offer. Meanwhile, two of the maids are busy with their duties, gossiping about their beautiful guests. But outside, Apollo is using the downtime to train, honing his skills under the night sky. Suddenly, a piercing scream cuts through the night, and his senses go on high alert. The source of the panic, a single spider, has sent both Luna and Lady Astria into a frenzy. He unleashes his ultimate attack, the Sword of 10 Handbreaths, to vaporize the tiny spider. He lands gracefully, immediately checking to see if Luna is unharmed. But the two women are still clinging to each other, completely traumatized by the ordeal. And that's when it finally dawns on him what, exactly, he's just barged in on. A frantic splash echoes as someone scrambles out of the water. Luna makes a mad dash for him, sobbing his name in a mix of relief and embarrassment. Apollo panics, calling out Luna's name as she barrels towards him. He tries to think fast, his mind racing as he summons his power. Recalling their earlier conversation, he channels his energy with a new purpose. The Sword of 10 Handbreaths expands, forming a brilliant pink cloak around Luna. From the bath, Astria watches in disbelief, realizing he's mastered expansion magic on the fly. He catches Luna, holding her as the energy solidifies into a makeshift garment. Well, that's one way to solve a wardrobe malfunction. Luna is ecstatic, her theory proven correct in the most dramatic way possible. Apollo smiles, a wave of relief washing over him as he confirms his newfound ability. But Luna, ever the instigator, gets a mischievous glint in her eye. She suggests he offer the same service to Lady Astria, sending everyone into a flustered panic. Astria is left speechless, her expression a mix of shock and quiet contemplation. Apollo is completely mortified, stammering as his face turns a brilliant shade of red. He makes a frantic apology before bolting from the carriage as fast as his legs can carry him. Back in the bath, the two women are left in a state of stunned, awkward silence. But soon, the quiet of the night is broken by the sound of gentle laughter. Outside, Apollo channels his embarrassment into a furious training session by the campfire. He throws punch after punch, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. He pushes himself to the point of exhaustion, trying to forget the scene he just witnessed. Inside, Astria gazes at her reflection, her thoughts a mystery. She looks out the window, wondering why the young man is still training so late into the night. Luna explains to Astria that Apollo is still outside, working through his embarrassment. Astria seems to question just how long this intense training session will last. With a knowing smile, Luna reveals that if he stops now, he'll just sneak out later to continue. It's better to let him burn off all that energy in one go, for efficiency. Astria is impressed, remarking on his incredible dedication. Luna practically bursts with pride, confirming that he's the most hardworking person she knows. Astria admits she was stunned by how quickly he mastered the expansion magic from Luna's suggestion. She then offers a cryptic metaphor, stating that nothing is possible if the bowl isn't facing up. Luna is left completely baffled by the sudden talk of kitchenware. Astria explains that one must be open to new ideas, and that magical training is like polishing the bowl. Luna watches him from afar, thinking to herself how truly amazing he is. But her thoughts turn inward, and she asks Astria a question that's been bothering her. She wonders why their host has been so incredibly kind and generous to her. She understands the attention given to a powerful mage like Apollo, but not to herself. In a quiet, comforting gesture, Astria takes her hand. She tells Luna that she is just as important to this journey. In fact, she believes Luna is the very reason Apollo's talent can shine so brightly. She explains that even the greatest potential, like a seed, needs love and care to flourish. To help Apollo grow into the magician he's meant to be, Luna's presence is absolutely indispensable. The profound words leave Luna completely speechless, her mind reeling with the revelation. Her words seem to strike a chord, and Apollo pushes himself even harder in his training. He clenches his fists, a vision of Luna's happy smile fueling his determination. And so their journey continues, a routine of training, travel, and five-star dining. Their travels bring them to the edge of a vast, sparkling sea, much to Luna's delight. She marvels at the sheer size of the river, which seems to stretch on forever. Astria confirms their path lies across the massive body of water. Luna frantically searches for a ferry, but Astria simply tells her not to worry. The space mage Mikami Sushi steps forward, ready to handle the obstacle. Apollo and Luna can only watch, wondering what kind of magic he's about to perform. He crouches at the water's edge, promising this will only take a moment. Famous last words. With a confident smirk, Mikami prepares to unleash his power. He slams his hands on the ground, releasing a massive wave of freezing energy. The entire surface of the river instantly crystallizes into solid ice. In a single moment, he's created a massive ice bridge, stunning our heroes. Without a second thought, Apollo and Luna race onto the newly formed path. Luna marvels at the impossible feat, realizing this is faster than any ferry. But her excitement gets the better of her, and she loses her footing on the slick ice. Apollo is quick to react, catching her just before she takes a nasty spill. But as they cross, unseen eyes watch them from the darkness of the forest. And inside the carriage, an urgent report reaches a very serious Lady Astria. The peaceful crossing is shattered as a pack of massive beasts bursts from the trees. These aren't just animals, they're snarling monsters hungry for a fight. Mikami urges Apollo and Luna to get to safety, promising to hold the line. Suddenly, a squad of elite guards descends, forming a protective barrier. Astria's personal guard, the Star Road School, moves to intercept the threat. Their commander, Shine Debut, rallies her troops with a single urgent command. One of the guards immediately responds, charging forward with crackling blue energy. He glides across the ice, a blur of motion against the frozen river. With a single gesture, he summons a massive, intricate magic circle above him. The commander unleashes the spell, a devastating meteor shower aimed at the beasts. Looks like the welcoming committee is a bit aggressive. Massive shards of ice rain down from the magical vortex. The spell slams into the beasts, crushing them under a wave of frozen power. With the initial volley over, the commander orders his troops to press the attack. Luna can only stare in awe as Apollo pulls her to safety. The convoy continues its crossing as the elite guards hold back the monster horde. Safely on the other side, a winded Luna asks about the incredible display of magic. Astria smiles, explaining her father's overprotective nature is to thank for her guard. She reveals their commander is a rank 2 official, with the rest in the top 20. The revelation of their power level leaves Luna completely stunned. A helpful diagram shows just how wide the gap is between Apollo and the elite guard. Guess our boy has a long way to climb. Astria confirms this with a serene smile, her plan unfolding perfectly. Her guards stand victorious, having easily dispatched the monstrous threat. She acknowledges their skill. They are undoubtedly first-class magicians. But she knows their power has a critical weakness. A magical storm renders them helpless. The pieces suddenly click into place for Luna, a look of dawning comprehension on her face. She turns to Apollo, her excitement barely contained as she explains the situation. Their destination, Delos, is a land of constant storms, a place where Apollo can truly shine. Luna realizes he won't just be useful, he'll be more powerful than any of these elite mages. Even the commander of the guard offers his respect, acknowledging Apollo's unique value. Apollo can only offer a flustered response, not quite used to being the center of attention. Looks like the pressure is on. The story shifts to the heart of the region known as Cheese-Eye, a barren land called Delos where endless storms make magic useless. And to rule this impossible place, they sent one specific person. That person, of course, was none other than Apollo. Their journey brings them to the dreary, rain-soaked town of Kiroi. The convoy makes its way through the muddy streets, a stark contrast to their previous luxury. Dressed for the weather, Apollo and Luna take in their grim new surroundings. The local wildlife immediately makes an impression, and it's a weird one. Suddenly, a whole flock of the bizarre, multi-winged creatures bursts forth. Their frantic squawking fills the air, adding another layer of chaos to the dreary town. One of the guards notes the town's sparse population, a grim reality of the region, but Astria is confident that once Apollo clears the monsters, people will return. Her gaze is sharp and focused, her mind already calculating the outcome. Luna offers her full support, encouraging Apollo to do his best for the town. But even Astria seems taken aback by the sheer desolation of their new home. She had expected more residents, but the harsh conditions have driven them away. She pouts, dissatisfied that so few will witness Apollo's grand debut. Guess you can't be a hero without an audience. Luna sighs, realizing the unfortunate truth in her words. The thought suddenly hits her, and she agrees with a burst of energy. Apollo can only scratch his head, caught between their shared disappointment. But their arrival is met with cries of panic as monsters descend on the town. The strange bird-like beasts swarm from the sky, their cries echoing through the streets. Lady Astria, completely unfazed, gives the order to her elite guard commander. Her guards spring into action, surprised that so many creatures breach the city's defenses. As the guards handle the threat, Apollo suddenly stops, a sense of unease washing over him. He can't shake the feeling that something is wrong, even as the guards dominate the fight. The commander prepares to unleash another powerful spell to finish the job, but his power suddenly flickers and dies, leaving him confused and vulnerable. He rushes to Lady Astria's side, his voice filled with a sudden, urgent panic. He delivers the grim news. A magical power storm has just erupted over the town. Well, so much for the elite guard. The commander confirms the worst. The storm has completely nullified their magic. As if on cue, a new wave of horned demonic beasts descends from the sky. The commander grits his teeth, realizing they're now facing a much greater threat. He cuts down a foe, wondering if the storm is driving the monsters into a frenzy. With their powers gone, he orders his men to fall back on their magical tools. But Luna steps forward, telling the guards to stand down and protect their lady. She gives Apollo a firm shove, announcing that it's now his time to shine. The commander turns, a look of dawning realization on his face. Luna offers a confident wink, cheering him on for the big show. Guess she's his #1 fan. With a calm smile, Apollo accepts his role, ready to face the storm. Apollo leaps into action, tossing his cloak aside as Luna cheers him on. The horned, red-skinned beasts charge through the rain, their cries echoing in the storm. He's immediately swarmed, a lone warrior against a tide of monstrous creatures. With a determined glare, he summons the sword of 10 handbreadths to his fist. He unleashes a devastating beam of pure energy, calling it his Excalibur. The attack splinters into a web of light, slicing through the entire monster horde. He soars through the chaos, a blur of blue flame leaving destruction in his wake. He realizes that for him, fighting in a magic-nullifying storm is actually an advantage. Talk about a niche skill set. But the town is still crawling with monsters, a seemingly endless supply of them. Undeterred, Apollo charges back into the fray, his blade now glowing with a vibrant green energy. He unleashes his legendary techniques, a storm of green energy that tears through the battlefield. Luna can only cheer in amazement, while Astria watches with a cold, calculating gaze. He realizes that in this storm, his power is completely unbound, free to be shaped by his will. With a surge of newfound confidence, he prepares to unleash his full potential. A massive wave of blue energy erupts from his hand, clearing a path through the horde. He becomes a whirlwind of destruction, firing energy arrows in every direction. But the constant barrage is beginning to take its toll, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Astria notes that he's as effective as her entire squad, but his movements are becoming sluggish. The monsters start to press their advantage, easily dodging his now predictable attacks. He grits his teeth, realizing his stamina is fading fast. Looks like his god mode has a battery life. But Astria calmly notes that the magical power storm is far from over. She looks up into the rain, a new lesson already forming in her mind. She mentions a concept called Helios's dilemma, piquing Luna's curiosity. As they watch Apollo fight, Astria begins to tell a story from the Empire's history. She speaks of a legendary figure whose name is still whispered in awe today. The great wizard Helios Electo, a prodigy who could use any spell imaginable. It's said that by the age of 3, he had already mastered countless forms of magic. Luna can't believe her ears, stunned by the tale of this toddler archmage. But even this genius had a critical flaw, the magical capacity of a 3-year-old. He had the knowledge to move mountains, but not enough power to light a candle. Astria describes it as the frustration of a gifted child without the experience to use their talent. The lesson hits home as Apollo falters, his energy suddenly waning in the heat of battle. This exact problem, she concludes, is what scholars call Helios' dilemma. Luna finally understands, realizing this is the very issue holding Apollo back. Just as a monster closes in, the guard commander intervenes, cutting the beast down. Apollo offers a strained thanks, clearly winded from the prolonged fight. He feels his power draining away, realizing he's completely overexerted himself. But the fight is far from over as a new wave of creatures descends upon them. He curses his own limits, wishing he had more of that logical power to command. But Luna suddenly has a flash of inspiration, declaring that she knows the solution. Lady Astria can only stare, completely baffled by Luna's sudden outburst. Meanwhile, Apollo continues the fight, driving his energy blade into another creature. He follows up with a brutal punch, but the effort is clearly taking its toll. Surrounded by his own blue aura, he struggles to keep the monsters at bay. But Luna's voice cuts through the chaos, urging him to use a forgotten ability. She desperately reminds him of a power he's used before to turn the tide. A dark memory surfaces, a command to consume the life force of his enemies. The realization dawns on him, and he knows exactly what he has to do. He grabs one of the bizarre, fluffy monsters, ready for an unconventional power-up. With a determined roar, he prepares to devour the creature's energy whole. He hoists the creature high, his body erupting in a torrent of blue energy. Luna recognizes the move instantly, but Astria can only stare in disbelief. He absorbs the monster's life force, converting its essence into his own power. But a much larger, horned beast roars, refusing to be intimidated. Re-energized, Apollo unleashes his heavenly sword, meeting the charge head-on. The resulting explosion rocks the mountainside as he thanks Luna for the reminder. But even with this new source of fuel, Helios's dilemma still holds him back. He realizes he needs to absorb far more monsters to sustain this fight. Guess it's time for an all-you-can-eat buffet. He wades back into the horde, but a new presence suddenly puts him on edge. A mysterious woman appears in a flash of light, calling his name with reverence. Apollo is completely stunned by her sudden arrival in the middle of the battle. She offers him a literal pile of monsters, held up by her own strange entourage. With a shout, she hurls the bundle of creatures right at him. Special delivery, I guess. He reaches out without hesitation, ready to accept this bizarre but necessary power-up. Green energy swirls violently as he begins to absorb the monster's life force. A massive pillar of light erupts from the ground, signaling the transfer of power. The sudden influx is agonizing, and he roars as his body overflows with raw energy. But even through the searing pain, a new resolve burns in his eyes. He clenches his fist, channeling the untamed power that now courses through him. His singular focus returns. He must protect Luna and the others, no matter the cost. He unleashes the stored energy in a colossal beam of green light. The blast scours the landscape, a pillar of pure destruction. The very earth trembles from the sheer force of the attack. In the aftermath, Luna rushes to his side, asking if he's all right. She leaps into his arms, amazed by his ever-growing power. The mysterious woman watches from afar, her expression calm and satisfied. But the magical storm continues to rage across the desolate land. Violent tornadoes of pure energy tear through the sky. The weather forecast is apocalypse with a chance of more apocalypse. Luna is completely overjoyed, praising his incredible performance. Apollo can only offer a gentle smile, his mission accomplished. But the sudden surge of power comes with a terrible, unseen price. A strange, agonizing energy courses through him, a poison in his veins. But seeing Luna's happy face, he resolves to hide his suffering from her. He holds her close, masking the intense pain with a strained smile. Meanwhile, Astria's guards report that the remaining monsters are dealt with. As they walk through the rain-soaked town, he tries to act as if nothing is wrong. The searing pain begins to fade, but a new sensation takes its place. He can feel his body changing, and he has no idea what it means. And so begins his official mission in this desolate, forgotten town. Welcome to Kiroi, Apollo's new home and personal monster-infested hellscape. His mission is now clear. He is to administer and protect the town of Kiroi. Luna can hardly believe it, realizing this entire town now belongs to Apollo. The weight of his new responsibility begins to sink in for our hero. He recalls his humble past, realizing this town is far larger than his old village. She celebrates his new status, but Apollo seems completely lost in thought. But his celebration is cut short as the agonizing pain from before returns. Meanwhile, the commander of her guard approaches Lady Astria with a report. He informs her that the magical power storm is finally beginning to subside. She immediately asks about another location, and he confirms their agent is in place. As if on cue, the storm clouds part, and sunlight breaks through the gloom. Luna watches in confusion as a short, muscular man with a wild top knot appears. He walks with a strange, determined gait, his presence commanding attention. He bows before the mysterious woman, who gives him a simple command. With a flurry of hand signs, he unleashes a massive golden magic circle. A brilliant dome of light erupts, blanketing the entire town in its glow. The woman explains it's a barrier to keep the monsters out for good. This powerful mage is Dusk Mirage, a legendary figure from the deserted lake school. His school specializes in reclaiming wastelands, their motto, turn hell into paradise. But Luna raises a critical point. Won't the barrier just fail in the next storm? Someone's been paying attention. The mysterious woman simply smiles, confirming Luna's fears are absolutely correct. She boasts that Dusk Mirage is the fastest barrier specialist in the business. Luna is ecstatic, realizing he can just recast the barrier every time a storm hits. Astria explains her father sent a team of specialists to help manage the region. As Apollo accepts his new challenge, the mysterious woman's servants begin cleaning their new base. Her diverse team of maids works tirelessly, making sure the place is absolutely spotless. Astria inspects their work, giving a nod of approval for a job well done. But the commander of her guard notices that their new hero is nowhere in sight. Luna cheerfully explains that Apollo is just doing what he always does. No surprises there. Outside, our boy is already training, obsessed with increasing his casting speed. His motivation is simple. The faster he is, the better he can protect Luna. The memory of Luna in danger flashes through his mind, fueling his resolve. His eyes burn with a fierce, unwavering determination, but his body suddenly gives out and he collapses in a wave of agony. He coughs up blood, a grim sign of the toll this training is taking. Yet even in his exhaustion, his eyes glow with a strange, powerful light. He's completely spent, curled on the ground in a pool of his own blood. He pushes himself up, gasping for air, refusing to give in to the pain. Alone in the dark alley, he continues to push his body to its absolute breaking point. A strange dark energy seems to fight back, a consequence of his power-up. Guess absorbing monsters has side effects. Just as he's about to collapse for good, a gentle light appears before him. He struggles to his feet, confused by the sudden daylight in the middle of the night. The dark alleyway is gone, replaced by an endless ethereal space. A new voice cuts through the silence, belonging to a mysterious white-haired man. He finds himself on a strange, reflective surface, completely disoriented. The man comments on his intense training, and Apollo finally sees who's speaking. An old, powerful-looking figure sits before him, radiating an aura of immense authority. He praises Apollo's humility, noting his refusal to grow arrogant with his new strength. The stranger declares that our boy is finally living up to his expectations. But Apollo's body is still failing him, the internal damage taking its toll. He admits that he's hit a wall, believing he can't get any stronger on his own. Looks like someone's about to get a training montage offer. The stranger offers to explain the reason for Apollo's suffering. Apollo questions him, pointing to his chest where the agony resides. With a knowing grin, the man reveals it's about the power he absorbed. He explains that monsters are essentially walking batteries of magical power. And while absorbing that power is possible, it's not always a clean process. A living creature's survival instinct creates resistance, making absorption difficult. That's why Apollo's choice to absorb from a dead monster was the correct one. He grabs the man, demanding to know why he's in pain if he did everything right. The old man calmly brushes him off, telling the kid to settle down. He then clarifies with a smug grin that he never said anything went wrong. This guy really enjoys his cryptic life lessons. The stranger reminds him that his ability is logical power, a different concept entirely. Apollo processes this, recalling the distinction between the two energy types. He remembers devouring the magic power from the monsters to fuel himself. But the old man explains that using raw magic to fuel logical power isn't a perfect conversion. The concept clicks, and Apollo compares it to trying to drink salt water to quench thirst. The stranger seems impressed, complimenting the kid on his quick understanding. Apollo is frustrated with himself, his resolve to protect Luna hardening once more. His mysterious mentor watches with a rather unsettling, knowing grin. Okay, this guy is officially creepy. He reveals that because Apollo had zero magic, he absorbed the energy like a sponge. It's like being stranded at sea, surrounded by water you can't actually use. The old man paints a grim picture, a man dying of thirst at sea. He sees what he thinks is salvation, a shimmering promise of relief. But in his desperation, he drinks the very thing that will poison him. The salt water burns, a cruel mockery of what his body truly needs. The more he drinks, the more he craves, a vicious cycle that leads only to ruin. Apollo clutches his chest, the agonizing truth of the metaphor hitting home. If he continues on this path, the only possible outcome is his own death. But he refuses to accept that fate, his will to protect Luna overriding all else. Guess dying wasn't on his to-do list. His mentor seems annoyed, reminding him he's been trying to get this point across. He explains that foreign power will never truly be his, and Apollo begs for a solution. Apollo quietly considers the grim alternative. A slow death is better than a quick one. He recalls the battle, believing absorbing the monster's power was his only choice. But he violently rejects that idea, refusing to accept his own powerlessness. He realizes making excuses is pointless. He must find what he should have done instead. His mentor watches with a deeply unsettling grin, enjoying the boy's struggle. The old man reveals the core problem. The absorbed magic power remains inside him. He offers a simple, almost mocking solution. Just don't overeat the energy. The words spark an idea, and Apollo prepares to put this new theory to the test. Even his mysterious teacher is caught off guard, wondering what the kid is up to. Apollo unleashes the excess energy, expelling the poison from his own body. The old man watches in disbelief as Apollo tries a new approach. A brilliant red core forms in his chest, the excess magic now visible. He begins to shape the raw power, forging it into something new. His mentor is left utterly speechless, his jaw on the floor. He lunges forward, grabbing Apollo's hand to inspect the energy himself. He can feel the raw, unused magic power coursing through the boy. Apollo lets out a sigh of relief, the agonizing pressure finally gone. But he explains he didn't get rid of it. He found a better way. The concept of digesting raw magic sends his mentor into a frenzy. Looks like the student just taught the master a new trick. Apollo stands calmly, realizing he's turned a deadly poison into a source of strength. The old man is stunned, realizing Apollo's logical power has actually increased. He accuses Apollo of planning to absorb the magic power from the very beginning. Losing all composure, he shakes Apollo, demanding to know how he digested the power. Apollo, completely unfazed by the manhandling, tries to explain his simple logic. He explains that his only goal was to stop the agonizing pain from getting worse. The mentor finds this explanation infuriatingly simple and demands a better one. He recalls an old habit from his past, from a time when his hands would ache from work. He would simply adjust his posture or change his grip, experimenting to find what worked. He simply applied that same problem-solving logic to the pain of the absorbed magic. His mentor can't believe it, asking if he just made adjustments to his own soul. Apollo beams with relief, confirming that his simple, intuitive solution was the right one. But his mentor is furious, insisting that what Apollo did should be impossible. He demonstrates the violent backlash that should occur when mixing the two powers. The old man explains that the more foreign magic you use, the more intense the pain. And the longer you use it, the more that alien energy will bind and corrupt you. He shows how even he struggles, the remnants of magic power fighting his every move. Even a master like him can't fully control the poison once it's in his system. Yet Apollo not only survived, he digested the power and amplified his own strength. The mentor compares it to turning salt water into fresh water inside your own stomach. Apollo just looks confused, worried he's somehow broken his ability to use magic. He's really not reading the room. The old man trembles, a low, guttural chuckle escaping him. The chuckle erupts into a wild, unrestrained laugh that echoes through the void. Apollo can only watch, completely bewildered by his mentor's sudden mania. But the man calls it exhilarating, the natural order of life itself. He roars that this is how techniques are meant to be passed on and surpassed. He places a hand on Apollo's head, a rare moment of gentle approval. He declares that Apollo has done well and that he is truly delighted. His grin is wide and unsettling, the look of a master who's found his true successor. Apollo is still processing the sudden shift from fury to overwhelming praise. But a bright smile breaks through as he accepts the old man's words. His mentor bows deeply, declaring that he has witnessed something truly wonderful. With a final laugh, he floats away, promising they will meet again someday. The ethereal plane shatters, and Apollo is consumed by a blinding golden light. He snaps back to reality, hearing a familiar voice calling out his name. Luna is right there, her face filled with worry as she shouts to get his attention. He finds himself back on the ground in the alley, calling out her name in surprise. He quickly turns his back to her, a move that leaves Luna completely baffled. In a panic, he tries to wipe away the blood, determined not to make her worry. Gotta hide the evidence of nearly dying. But she simply leans against him, resting her head gently on his shoulder. She thanks him for always being there, leaving Apollo stunned by her quiet gratitude. She gently reminds him that he's always training, always trying to protect everyone. She moves to face him, her expression full of concern as he tries to explain himself. With a bright smile, she simply asks him not to overdo it for their sake. Her simple, heartfelt request leaves him completely speechless. He can only agree, promising to be more careful from now on. As they finally head back inside, a pair of eyes watches them from a nearby window. Astria observes their bond, noting that Apollo already has the perfect companion. And in a quiet moment of reflection, she admits to a rare feeling of envy. The next day, a new sense of order has come to the once desolate town. Their new headquarters stands clean and proud under a clear, sunny sky. After a good night's rest, Luna is fired up and ready to get to work. She asks Apollo where they should even begin their new administrative duties. Realizing who's in charge, she turns to Lady Astria for their first task. Astria suggests they start with a simple inspection of Apollo's new home. The weight of ownership sinks in as Apollo processes that this building is his. Their tour of the premises quickly leads them to an interesting find. They come face to face with a massive, heavily locked vault door. Both Apollo and Luna are stunned, wondering what could be inside. Astria reveals it's a vault used to store the town's public funds. Well, that's one way to get a signing bonus. Luna quickly explains that this means they've just found the local tax money. A light bulb goes off for Luna, who realizes they can use the funds to rebuild the town. Astria watches them with a knowing smile, impressed by their noble intentions. She praises their responsible attitude, even when faced with a fortune. She explains that in this country, magicians are a privileged class, and with that privilege, some fall to corruption, misusing public funds. But she confirms that Apollo and Luna have the right mindset. The money is for the people. Luna beams at the praise, while Apollo seems a bit overwhelmed by the compliment. Eager to get started, Luna immediately tries to open the massive vault door. Guess she's taking a hands-on approach to accounting. She puts all her strength into turning the wheel, but it refuses to budge. She announces that it's locked, and Astria confirms this with zero surprise. Astria explains they've been searching for the key, but it's likely long gone. Luna spots something on the door, catching Apollo's attention. With a brilliant idea, she points to the keyhole and asks Apollo for a favor. Our boy is completely lost, unsure of what she's getting at. He steps forward, ready to help, and warns her to stand back for safety. He summons his power, preparing to blast the door open, but Luna panics. She asks if he's just going to break it, and he confirms that was his brilliant plan. Luna pulls out some helpful, if childish, diagrams to explain his own powers to him. She suggests he could simply shape his energy into a key to unlock it from the inside. Even Astria is impressed by the clever solution, admitting it's a valid approach. With Luna's enthusiastic encouragement, Apollo agrees to give her clever plan a try. He approaches the vault, studying the lock and considering the shape he needs to create. A glowing key of pure energy forms from his hand, sliding perfectly into the keyhole. He channels his power, the Sword of 10 Handbreaths, into the complex mechanism. The golden energy expands, mapping the intricate tumblers of the lock from the inside. With intense focus, he prepares to turn the ethereal key he's just created. The energy construct twists, and the sound of heavy bolts disengaging echoes from the door. Luna is ecstatic, while even Astria seems impressed by his fine control. With the lock open, Apollo puts his back into it, forcing the heavy vault door open. It swings wide to reveal a treasure trove of gold and artifacts. Looks like the town's budget is in good shape. Both Apollo and Luna are left speechless by the river of gold before them. Luna can't comprehend the sheer scale of the fortune, wondering how much it's all worth. But a closer look reveals more than just coins, armor, weapons, and royal regalia. She turns to Astria, questioning how these treasures could be considered public funds. With a knowing smile, Astria explains this is exactly why the key was lost. Luna points out the obvious. Taxes are paid in coin, not crowns and swords. She gestures to the artifacts, realizing something is deeply wrong with this picture. Astria reveals these are the personal assets of the previous governor who fled. Looks like someone was skimming a little off the top. Apollo puts the pieces together. The governor hid his loot and took the key to protect it. Holding a priceless necklace, Luna wonders what will become of all this abandoned treasure. With a slight smile, Astria confirms that is indeed the case. She declares that all the abandoned assets now belong to the new governor of Delos. The sheer scale of the fortune sends Luna into a complete cartoonish panic. Even Apollo can't believe it, wondering if all this treasure is truly his. Astria watches him with a serene expression, her plan unfolding perfectly. With their new funds, life in their headquarters takes on a much grander scale. They sit down to a lavish meal, with Apollo placed at the head of the table. But our boy looks completely out of his element, holding his cutlery with uncertainty. He questions his seating, suggesting that a noble like Astria should be in his place. She calmly corrects him, confirming that he is exactly where he belongs, in the Lord's seat. She reminds him that he is the lord of this mansion, while she is merely a civilian guest. With a satisfied smile, she confirms that the current order of things is perfectly correct. The sudden promotion leaves Apollo sweating, completely unused to this level of authority. A pair of maids bow, ready to take his order, but he questions their loyalty to Astria. He can't shake the feeling of discomfort, wondering if he truly deserves this treatment. Luna, however, is enjoying the moment, proudly noting how much he's grown. Later, Apollo is back to his usual routine, practicing his combat forms in the hallway. Can't keep a good workaholic down, but he's interrupted by a strange sound, and he stops to listen intently. The sound is a beautiful melody, and he sees a pair of maids happily walking down the hall. The music flows from a nearby room, where a pair of elegant hands dance across piano keys. The source of the melody is Lady Astria, lost in a beautiful piano performance. Apollo and Luna peek from the doorway, completely captivated by her hidden talent. Luna notes that the elegant display perfectly fits Astria's noble demeanor. But Apollo is focused on something else, the incredible speed of her fingers. The concept of finger movements seems to trigger a sudden realization for him. As Luna offers a round of applause, Astria humbly dismisses her own skill. She explains that playing keeps her fingers sharp, a skill she can't afford to lose. The words hit Apollo like a lightning bolt, a new path to power opening before him. He realizes he's been neglecting fine control, vowing to start training his fingers. Another day, another training montage. Astria calmly asks if he's having trouble controlling his magic, her question hitting the mark. He admits he can summon his power quickly, but lacks the fine control to do it consistently. With a burst of inspiration, he thanks Astria, declaring his new goal is to train his fingers. He immediately dashes off to begin, leaving the two women to watch him go. Guess the training montage starts now. Luna smiles fondly, remarking that this is just like him, and Astria quietly agrees. But their quiet moment is interrupted as the guard commander rushes in with an urgent report. He informs them that monster activity is on the rise again, just outside the town's barrier. Astria's gaze hardens, her mind already calculating the renewed threat. She declares they must deal with the monsters now, before another magic storm makes them unstoppable. Elsewhere, the mysterious woman rallies her own troops, urging them to repay Apollo's hospitality. And just beyond the town's edge, a pair of monstrous creatures lurks, ready to test the new defenses. A massive reptilian beast stands as the clear leader of the gathering horde. One of its smaller minions charges forward, sent to test the town's new defenses. It slams into the golden barrier and is instantly vaporized. So much for the volunteer. Even the other monsters are stunned by the barrier's lethal power. But their leader remains unimpressed, arms crossed in silent defiance. He issues a guttural command, clearly ordering another attempt on the shield. His underlings tremble in fear, not exactly eager to be the next test subject. Enraged by their cowardice, the reptilian commander lets out a furious roar. The entire horde prepares to descend upon the town in a wave of destruction, but they're met with a familiar spell, a devastating meteor ice rain from the elite guard. The commander orders his elite guard to spread out and engage the enemy. As they watch, Astria notes that the horde isn't just rampaging, it's being controlled. Her guards unleash a flurry of ice spears, cutting down the first wave of beasts. One of the mages vows to scatter the entire horde, preparing a much larger spell. He unleashes a devastating volley of ice boulders, sending them crashing into the enemy lines. The frozen projectiles tear through the battlefield, a display of raw power. Luna flinches from the sheer force of the attack, but Astria is completely unfazed. In fact, she seems unimpressed, declaring that their efforts simply aren't good enough. A brilliant green aura erupts around her as she decides to handle this herself. Looks like class is in session. Luna can only stare in shock, calling out Astria's name as her power soars. With a surge of green energy, she effortlessly dissolves her guard's ice magic midair. The powerful ice boulders simply crumble into dust before her overwhelming presence. She coldly reminds her men that she never permitted attacks that could damage Apollo's town. The commander can only offer a frantic apology, realizing his grave mistake. Surrounded by ethereal feathers, Astria declares that she will handle the situation personally. She addresses her elite guard, telling them to watch closely and learn a valuable lesson. In a flash of light, she moves with blinding speed towards the enemy lines. She soars above the horde, unleashing a torrent of green energy upon the beasts below. The monsters are caught completely off guard as beams of light rain down from the sky. Guess they didn't check the forecast for divine judgment. A complex sigil glows in her eye, a sign of the incredible power she's about to unleash. Her energy blasts through the monster's chest, obliterating it in an instant. She floats serenely above the battlefield, leaving a trail of feathers and fallen beasts. Luna rushes forward, completely stunned that Astria was a powerful magic user all along. She points out that with this level of strength, Astria doesn't even need an elite guard. Astria considers her words, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. She explains with a gentle smile that her father is just a bit overprotective. Her true power is finally revealed, a radiant aura of divine energy. Astria calmly admits she can use a bit of magic, which is a massive understatement. She acknowledges that Luna's point about the guards might have some truth to it. But the reason for her entourage is simple, a doting and perhaps paranoid father. Luna gushes over Astria's beautiful display, leaving the noblewoman a bit flustered. But their leader watches from the cliffs, its teeth clenched in silent fury. Their attention is drawn to the hulking silhouette overlooking the battlefield. A four-eyed reptilian behemoth stands revealed, the clear commander of this horde. Luna correctly identifies it as the leader, the source of the coordinated attack. With its reconnaissance complete, the creature makes a swift retreat. The ground trembles as the massive beast disappears back into the mountains. Back inside their headquarters, the commander begins his tactical briefing. He explains the giant beast likely has a nest in the nearby Rocky Mountains. It was testing their defenses, a rare creature capable of strategic thought. Astria lays out the strategy with cold, tactical precision. If they can take down the leader, the horde will become a disorganized mob. Luna is stunned, slowly putting the pieces of the plan together. Astria confirms her goal. If Apollo defeats the beast, the town can finally be safe. Later, Luna excitedly recounts the battle for Apollo over a lavish dinner. He's shocked to learn Astria is a mage, but she humbly calls it dabbling. Sure, and Apollo is just okay at fighting. Luna repeats the mission with renewed hope. Take down the boss, save the town. Apollo, having missed the whole thing, needs a quick debrief on the big one. Astria agrees, confident that this is the key to restoring life to the region. For Luna, the motivation is simple. A victory here means happiness for everyone. Apollo agrees with a confident smile, his resolve hardening for the coming battle. Astria explains her agents are already scouting the mountains for the beast's lair. A new idea sparks in Apollo's mind, a look of sudden inspiration on his face. He clenches his fist, declaring that he must become even stronger for the fight. With a determined look, he puts his new training philosophy into immediate practice. He summons his legendary blade, the Sword of 10 Handbreaths, for a new purpose. Luna and Astria can only watch in shock, calling out his name in confusion. His devastating attack lands squarely on the roasted chicken for dinner. Guess finger training starts in the kitchen. In a flash of red light, the meat is perfectly carved from the bone with incredible speed. The result is a flawlessly deboned meal, a testament to his newfound precision. Apollo explains he's just applying the same principle he used on the monsters. He declares that eating takes too much time, opting to absorb the nutrients directly. Luna mourns her lost meal, amazed by his extreme dedication to efficiency. And so, Apollo's intense training for the upcoming boss battle continues. He practices his new focus, the fine, delicate movements of his fingers. Out in the courtyard, he shows Luna the progress of his new finger training. He explains he's trying to emulate Astria's piano playing to master control. Luna is, as always, his #1 fan, completely impressed by his progress. But as she watches him, a serious question begins to form in her mind. She finally asks, pointing out that his power seems fundamentally different from hers. She points to his hand, noting that the energy from each finger has a different color. Apollo confirms her observation, adding that each one even has its own name. Luna's eyes light up as she asks about the pink energy he uses to protect her. He casually tells her its name is Levitine, sending her into a fit of pure joy. Luna refocuses, using Astria's piano playing as a perfect analogy for her theory. She wonders aloud if each of his powers has a different role, just like the notes on a piano. The simple but profound idea hits Apollo like a ton of bricks. He's been using a Swiss Army knife like a hammer. She compares it to an expert farmer who knows every type of apple they grow, but someone unfamiliar with the orchard can't tell one from another. She takes his hand, suggesting that perhaps he just needs to learn the feel of his own power. With a confident pose, she declares this is the true shortcut to improvement. Her words echo in his mind. He's only ever used his powers, never understood them. He looks at his hand, realizing that if he can master the differences, he can grow stronger. And so, his new training regimen begins under the light of the full moon. He pushes himself relentlessly, sweat pouring as he practices his forms. His focus is absolute, his eyes burning with a new kind of intensity. But a familiar voice calls his name, breaking his concentration. Luna arrives with dinner, cheerfully declaring that it's time to refuel. She wheels a cart of food towards him, insisting that he take a well-deserved break. But Apollo has other plans, summoning his Muramasa blade with a determined look. Dinner is about to become a training exercise. The red blade hovers over the meal, ready to strike once more. Luna and one of the maids watch, expecting another display of extreme efficiency. But Apollo's expression is one of intense concentration, sweat beading on his brow. In a flash of light, the perfectly carved chicken is suddenly whole again. Luna is completely baffled, asking how he managed to reverse the process. She recalls how he made it boneless before, now wondering how he put it back together. Apollo looks at his hand, a new theory forming as he decides to try again. He focuses his red energy, attempting to replicate the strange phenomenon. This time, his goal isn't just to absorb, but to understand and control his power. He commands the energy to revert the chicken to its previous state. Looks like dinner is now a science experiment. But the result is a disaster, as Luna stares at a plate of clean-picked bones. Even Apollo is baffled by the unexpected outcome of his experiment. The maid asks the critical question, what was different between this and his last attempt? Apollo racks his brain, trying to understand the subtle change in his approach. And then, in a flash of insight, the answer becomes crystal clear. He visualizes a simple analogy. Magic, like food, must be absorbed to be stored. He points to the skeletal remains, ready to explain his newfound theory to the others. He recalls his intense training, realizing his fatigue prevented him from fully processing the energy. The difference, he explains, is that he swallowed the power without completely absorbing it. Luna is confused, wondering if he can still use power that he hasn't truly made his own. With a confident smile, Apollo declares he's ready to test his new theory. He summons his Muramasa blade, aiming it at the poor, unsuspecting chicken dinner. This time, his goal is to use the power without absorbing a single thing. He focuses with intense concentration, the fate of dinner hanging in the balance. The red energy washes over the meal, and the chicken is miraculously made whole again. Luna and the maid are ecstatic as Apollo confirms his theory worked perfectly. He gives all the credit to Luna, admitting her insight was the key to his breakthrough. And so he dedicates himself to mastering all 5 of his uniquely named powers. But several days later, the ominous magic storm returns to the region. Deep within the mountains, a powerful presence begins to stir once more. Under a sky of roiling green energy, the team ventures into the storm-racked mountains. The commander announces they're approaching the forest, the beast's supposed lair. Astria confirms their intel. The monster's leader hasn't left its territory. Luna excitedly clarifies the plan. Apollo goes in, beats the boss, and saves the day. But Astria informs her that the rest of them will be waiting safely back in town. Apollo agrees, explaining that in this storm they would only slow him down. Guess this is a solo mission. Luna reluctantly accepts, believing it's better for her to stay out of his way. But Astria firmly disagrees, placing a reassuring hand on Luna's shoulder. With a knowing smile, she insists that it's actually better for Luna to go with him. Luna is stunned by the reversal, and Astria confirms, ready to explain her reasoning. She explains that Apollo's true power is drawn from his desire to protect. With absolute certainty, she tells Luna that he will keep her safe. Luna turns to Apollo, her eyes wide with hope, asking for his protection. He gives a confident smile, promising to protect her no matter what happens. His simple, heartfelt declaration leaves both Luna and Astria completely smitten. The guard commander can only look on, utterly confused by their sudden change in mood. And so, hand in hand, the 2 heroes venture into the heart of the storm. The very air crackles with raw power, a maelstrom of chaotic energy. They press on through the twisted forest, the storm's casualties littering their path. Luna clutches his coat, her fear palpable in the oppressive darkness. Apollo tries to calm her nerves, promising that everything will be all right, but the forest itself feels heavy with a dark, foreboding energy. A sudden realization hits him, and he remembers the perfect solution. He summons the familiar pink energy, the one he uses just for her. With a confident smile, he unleashes his protective power, Levitine. A ribbon of light wraps around Luna, catching her completely by surprise. The energy solidifies into a shimmering barrier, encasing her in its glow. He explains it's the same spatial magic he used before, a shield against any threat. With her safety now guaranteed, he tells her it's time to press on. Her fear vanishes in an instant, replaced by a bright, trusting smile. Guess personal force fields are a great morale booster. With Luna safely shielded, they push deeper into the storm-racked forest. He leads the way with unwavering resolve while she holds on tight, trusting him completely. But the ground suddenly trembles as the forest itself seems to come alive. A pair of reptilian monsters emerges from the gloom, their eyes fixed on the intruders. Luna shouts a warning as Apollo braces himself for the inevitable fight. She spots more of them on the cliffs above, realizing they've walked right into an ambush. She asks him what to do, but his calm expression tells her he already has a plan. The monsters leap down from the rocks, their claws ready to tear them apart. Apollo's eyes glow as he summons his legendary blade, the Sword of 10 Hand Breaths. He unleashes a brilliant blue light, calling forth the power of Excalibur. The reptilian beasts leap forward, their attack frozen by a strange blue light. But Luna is stunned to see it's not a blade, but something else entirely. A volley of star-shaped projectiles erupts from his hand, a brand new technique. The energy constructs tear through the monsters with devastating force. In an instant, the ambush is over, leaving Luna completely speechless. His attack cuts through another beast before it can even react. He moves like a blur, a whirlwind of blue light clearing their path. Guess finger training pays off in more ways than one. With a determined roar, he pushes his newfound control to its limits. The monsters fall one by one, unable to counter his precise, deadly assault. Luna can only watch in awe, amazed by his incredible display of power. The first wave of monsters lies defeated, but their brethren are far from discouraged. One of the beasts, wounded but enraged, lets out a furious roar and charges forward. Apollo realizes the horde is endless. For everyone he cuts down, another takes its place. But his new technique is wild, the energy spreading too far for him to control. Luna begs him to cancel the spell, the chaotic power overwhelming even her barrier. The monsters press their advantage, their eyes glowing with murderous intent. Apollo and Luna can only watch as the next wave descends upon them. But then, a sudden realization hits him. A new way to use his power. Looks like someone just remembered the tutorial. He focuses his will, channeling the chaotic blue energy into a single point. A concentrated beam of light erupts, piercing the charging monster with perfect precision. The monster's crude bone weapon falls uselessly beside its defeated form. From the safety of her barrier, Luna calls out, asking if Apollo is all right. He catches his breath, realizing that for every beast he defeats, another appears. They continue their advance, moving deeper into the dark, ominous territory. Suddenly, a much larger reptilian monster looms over Luna, its eyes filled with malice. Apollo unleashes a new technique, a focused whip of blue energy from his fingertip. The energy stream wraps around the beast, binding it before it can land a blow. He turns to check on Luna, his attention momentarily diverted from the fight. But in that split second, the monster's claws lash out with blinding speed. The attack connects, sending Apollo flying back in a brutal spray of blood. Luna watches in absolute horror, her scream silenced by the protective barrier. She calls his name in a panic as he stumbles, insisting he's fine despite the gash. From within her shield, she insists on treating the wound immediately. A warm light glows as she soothes the pain, apologizing that it's all she can do. She praises his newfound strength, but Apollo seems to doubt his own progress. With unwavering faith, she declares he's more than strong enough to defeat the boss. Her words reignite his spirit, and he promises to see this mission through. He leaps back into the fight, a whirlwind of blue energy carving a path forward. A focused blast of power sends the next wave of monsters reeling from the impact. He turns back with a smile, trying to convince her the gaping wound is just a scratch. Classic hero move. But the strain is immense, his body screaming in protest from the exertion. Luna begs him to stop pushing himself, and he can only manage a weak apology. She quickly tears a strip of cloth, fashioning a makeshift bandage for his arm. Consulting a magical device from Astria, she confirms they're almost out of the forest. As they emerge into a rocky clearing, they remain unaware of the eyes watching from below. The monster scouts have been observing his every move, gauging his unparalleled strength. They relay all the information they've gathered back to the boss deep in its territory. The messengers scurry back to their master's lair, carrying vital intelligence. The hulking commander listens intently, analyzing the reports to find Apollo's weakness. This is no mindless creature. It's a tactical leader, and it's preparing a strategy. The reptilian commander grins, having finally found Apollo's weakness. The plan is put into motion as a monster lunges directly for Luna, but its claws slam harmlessly against the shimmering pink barrier. Apollo leaps in, driving a fist of pure energy into the beast's side. But as one falls, another takes its place, relentlessly targeting Luna. He grits his teeth, the constant need to defend her wearing him down. He spins around, deflecting another attack aimed squarely at his companion. He finally realizes the truth. They aren't attacking him at all. Luna apologizes, believing she's become the liability she feared she'd be. But Apollo fiercely rejects her words, blasting another monster away. He vows that he will absolutely protect her, no matter the cost. With a determined cry, he reaffirms his promise to be her shield. His unwavering declaration leaves Luna completely moved. But their moment is cut short as another wave of monsters charges forward. He unleashes Excalibur again, a desperate attempt to hold the line. The wild blue energy tears through the horde, but it's not enough. The beasts ignore him, continuing their relentless assault on Luna's barrier. He realizes this defensive strategy is a losing battle, wearing him down. So he switches tactics, unleashing a brand new power from his arsenal. A blade of green light carves a path, bisecting the monsters before they reach her. He unleashes a new green power, vowing to keep Luna safe from the horde. Luna watches in awe, realizing he's switching between magics without any fatigue. The shattered ground is proof that Apollo has finally mastered his varied abilities. But just as victory seems possible, the reptilian commander erupts from the earth. Luna is frozen in pure, unadulterated terror at the sight of the true boss. Even Apollo is stunned by the monster's sudden and dramatic appearance. The sheer force of its arrival sends Luna stumbling backward in a panic. Apollo screams her name, desperately reaching out to shield her from the new threat. The hulking commander grins, its plan to draw them out working perfectly. Its massive foot descends, aiming to crush Luna right where she sits. That pink barrier is about to be seriously tested, but Apollo unleashes a desperate blast of green energy to save her. The monster roars, its own power flaring as it pushes through the attack. Apollo screams in agony, the sheer force of the impact overwhelming him. Luna calls out his name in terror, trapped and helpless within her barrier. The beast snatches him by the leg, holding him upside down with a cruel grin. It slams him into the ground with bone-shattering, earth-shaking force. Our boy is tossed through the air like a rag doll, completely at its mercy. He can only scream as the brutal beatdown continues without end. The commander's arm blurs, delivering another devastating blow. Guess the boss fight is a little one-sided right now. The attack connects, sending him flying with a brutal, bloody gash. He crashes to the ground, the impact echoing through the desolate forest. Luna screams his name in terror as the hulking commander looms over them. The beast's cruel grin widens as Luna begins to blame herself for the attack. She realizes they're targeting her to create an opening, to exploit his one weakness. The commander lets out a triumphant laugh, clearly enjoying the success of its plan. Luna holds him, convinced that her presence is the sole reason he's being injured. Apollo grits his teeth through the pain, bloodied but not yet broken. He refuses to let her take the blame, questioning how this could possibly be her fault. The truth finally clicks. They're not just fighting him, they're exploiting his love for her. He holds her tight as a storm of energy erupts, bracing for the next phase of the fight. Luna calls out to him, but Apollo is trembling with a cold, quiet rage. His aura explodes as he roars, furious that they would target Luna. With a look of pure fury, he screams that he will never forgive them. The reptilian commander just grins, completely unfazed by the boy's threat. Apollo gathers all his power into his hand, a swirling vortex of raw energy. He prepares to unleash his ultimate technique, the Sword of 10 Hand Breaths. But this time he unleashes all 5 powers at once in a brilliant, chaotic display. The backlash is immediate, a searing pain that feels like his insides are being torn apart. He becomes a human cannonball, propelled forward by the untamed absolute power. He carves through the monsters, a living storm of multicolored destruction. He brings the full, untamed power of his sword down with a furious roar. The chaotic energy slams into the commander, a rainbow of pure destruction. Luna can only watch in disbelief, completely stunned by this new level of power. The commander's 4 eyes widen in shock as the attack connects. Its body is instantly crisscrossed with glowing lines of energy. The beast erupts in a massive, multicolored explosion, completely obliterated. Well, that's one way to end a boss fight. Luna realizes with awe that he defeated the monster in a single, devastating instant. But the victory comes at a cost, as Apollo collapses, bleeding and broken. He apologizes for putting her through this, his concern for her overriding his own pain. She begs him to focus on his own wounds, but a new threat emerges from the trees. Luna panics, realizing his wounds are far beyond her ability to heal. But a familiar voice echoes from another plane, chiding him for worrying her. Apollo's eyes snap open in shock. He knows that voice all too well. His mentor's voice urges him on, reminding him of a power he already possesses. Pushing through the pain, Apollo reaches for a fallen monster. He summons the red energy of Muramasa, ready for a desperate gamble. Luna can only watch in confusion, unsure of what he's planning. He plunges his hand into the beast's chest, extracting its very essence. Looks like recycling is about to get weird. A stream of raw magical energy flows from the corpse directly into him. Luna realizes he's absorbing the monster's power to heal and refuel himself. He explains that if he can just take their magical power, he can use it for his own purposes. A look of grim determination on his face. Luna can only react with pure, unadulterated shock. Through gritted teeth, he tells her to watch as he puts his desperate theory to the test. His plan is simple: swallow the raw magical power from the fallen beasts. The stolen energy surges into his chest, directly targeting his most grievous wound. Luna is stunned, realizing he's using the monster's own magic to close his injuries. The wound glows with a fiery red light as the flesh begins to knit itself back together. Talk about a sustainable energy source. The gruesome gash seals itself shut, the stolen power acting as a supernatural suture. In a matter of moments, the wound is completely gone, leaving Luna speechless. He kneels, the gaping wound now gone, leaving only a tattered hole in his coat. Luna is amazed, asking if he's somehow mastered healing magic. He recalls his training, how he absorbed the essence of a roasted chicken. He explains he used that same principle, applying the monster's power before it was fully absorbed. Luna compares it to using natural remedies, completely in awe of his ingenuity. She declares him perfect, a warrior who can heal his own wounds in battle. But he gives her the credit, admitting his drive to protect her unlocked this new power. With the danger past, he asks if she's done staring, suddenly very aware of the draft. Luna snaps out of it, flustered as she admits she was admiring his physique. He's completely lost by her comment as she frantically tries to take it back. But their moment is cut short by a rustling in the dark, ominous forest. Apollo's senses flare, realizing the fight isn't quite over yet. Luna, however, is fired up, ready to cheer him on for the final cleanup. With his #1 fan behind him, Apollo agrees to finish the job. With the commander gone, the remaining monsters are just a disorganized mob. Their attacks are scattered and chaotic, lacking the strategy of their fallen leader. And in a flash, Apollo hunts down every last one of them. Guess he's not a fan of leaving loose ends. As the last monster falls, the ominous green storm finally begins to recede. The town's golden barrier shines like a beacon of hope in the clearing sky, and walking out to greet them are Astria and her entourage, ready to welcome the heroes home. The commander urges Astria to seek shelter, the magic storm still raging around them. But she refuses to leave, her gaze fixed on the treacherous mountain path. She insists on being there to greet Apollo and Luna, calling it the proper thing to do. Her commander grows anxious, noting that over half a day has passed since they left. Suddenly, a lookout's cry cuts through the wind, announcing their return. The entire welcoming party is left speechless, their expressions a mix of shock and relief. Two figures emerge from the blizzard, battered but walking together. Astria's composure finally breaks, tears welling in her eyes as she sees Apollo. She's completely overcome with emotion, her faith in him rewarded. A gentle, relieved smile graces her lips. Her hero has come home. The commander's voice rings out, ordering a salute to Apollo, the 9th class officer. In perfect unison, the elite guard bows deeply, a sign of ultimate respect. The two heroes, bloodied and weary, make their way back to the waiting party. Astria welcomes them home with quiet relief, and Apollo offers his thanks. Luna looks up at him, her face a mess of happy tears and overwhelming pride. She throws her arms around him, celebrating their hard-won victory. On that day, a single man saved the lost city from certain destruction. Astria watches them with a knowing smile, her hero having returned. Guess her investment paid off. His name is Apollo, a newly minted 9th class officer and the town's savior. But a secret lies hidden. His actual magical power is and always has been 0.